Well, hello and welcome to London here from Resourcing Tomorrow. I'm joined by Mark Bristow, of course, the CEO of Barrick. Thank you very much for taking a few minutes to speak to us, Mark. How are you doing, first of all? How's the day been?
Good, thanks. Very interesting, and it's nice to see young people, more young people than before here at this conference.
Well, I was talking to the organisers and they told me that this year everything's up about 20%. So in terms of companies attending, but also investors attending as well, which I take as a pretty positive sign because, I mean, from my point of view, I would say this year's been quite tough on the markets, especially for the junior miners. But what's your take on this year?
So the metal prices are healthy, as you point out, but the equities are lagging behind the metal prices. So great opportunity to get people's attention and load up on the investors.
Yeah, okay, good. So what are you doing? You have a stand here today, don't you, as well? What have you got an objective you want to achieve over these next few days?
So, you know, we're born here in London on the London Stock Exchange as Gold Resources, and then we merged with Barrick back in 2019. So we always come back to this conference, and every November we always also hold the Barrick quarterly results here at the London Stock Exchange. So some of our teams, like the exploration team, operate out of the United Kingdom because that really is the center of the world, and we can reach out to our different projects around the world.
Excellent. And in terms of Barrick then, and your projects, or perhaps where you're looking, let's say, are you looking in particular commodities or particular jurisdictions going through towards sort of 2025, but also really you're looking probably a lot farther ahead than 1 year, you know, probably talking 5, 10, 15 years. Where do you see the future for the sector?
So we look at 10-year rolling plans, and our focus, we're a gold company, so our foundational value is gold. We've 5 years ago embraced copper as a key commodity. We believe that copper is as strategic as gold is precious. And so we're leading the industry in new developments in copper. And we expect to bring on the Reko Diq project, the giant Reko Diq project in Pakistan, and the expansion of our Lumwana copper mine in Zambia in 2028, which is ahead of the rest of the new project developments for copper.
So copper, gold, any of the commodities that perhaps investors could be keeping an eye on, do you think?
So we're very focused on copper and gold. You know, we're the second largest producer of gold, and when you put our copper together, we're up there with the biggest producers in the industry.
And what are you seeing coming down? Are you seeing the sector sort of, it's always hard to perhaps call a bottom in the sector, but are you seeing, you know, demand sort of going up? Do you think the mining sector's got a bright future than it's had for the last few years?
Absolutely. I think particularly on the gold and copper front, the upside is, I would say there's more risk in the upside than the downside.
Well, on that note, thank you very much, Mark Bristow, for taking the time to talk to us. I'm sure I'll be seeing you around the rest of the conference, but for now, thank you very much and enjoy the few days.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, that was Mark Bristow there, of course, the CEO of Barrick. So obviously we went live a few moments ago, and we had to sort of emergency cut because Mark was doing an interview with the Resourcing Tomorrow people, and I was told the mics were interfering. I'm not sure they were, but we had to sort of do a quick cut. So anyway, we're back on schedule now. Hopefully we're going to run live throughout most of the day. We're going to break for lunch for about an hour and a half. But the idea really is that I'm going to interview some key speakers here, and then we're going to go to the floor behind me where my colleague Pam and Alan will be doing interviews with some of the companies on the floor. But if we just look at the schedule that we've got coming up today. So first of all, that was obviously Mark Bristow, who we've had. In a few minutes' time, we're going to be going down and talking to Ryan Mee and the Fulcrum Metals team at their stand. Then we're coming back up here with me for an interview with either Dean McPherson or Rob Peterman from the Toronto Stock Exchange. So that should be quite interesting to see what they're seeing from the North American side of things. Then it's back down to the floor for Forum Energy Metals. Janet Micklejohn is going to give us an interview looking at their uranium project out in Nunavut there in northern Canada. They obviously had some pretty active field season this year. We're going to get an idea of how they felt that field season has gone. Then we're coming back up here to me, and we're going to be talking to someone from the Critical Minerals Association. That's Jeff Townsend. That should be quite interesting to find out exactly what the Critical Minerals Association, what work they're doing and what they're seeing in the sector generally. Then it's down on the floor again to Capital Metals. We've not spoken to Capital Metals before, but Pam will be doing an interview with Greg Motter, the CEO there of Capital Metals. And then we're back up here to me again for Marley Palin of BHP. BHP Explore, that is. Of course, I know East Star Resources, who are regulars on Stockbox, are making use of that BHP Explore program. So we're getting a chat to Marley, just finding a bit about that program and what criteria they use for the companies that they get involved with on that. And then we're going down for a special at the Cornish Pavilion. There's, I think, 6 Cornish companies here. There's MPs, there's people from Cornwall Trade and Investments. We're going to go down. They've got about 4 or 5 stands and made a pavilion. So we've got a special feature that's at 11:30 with the Cornish Pavilion. And we're going to do a bit of a roundtable discussion. Alan Green is going to lead that, and Dan Flynn, an investor, is going to be asking some questions as well. And then before lunch, it's back up here where we've got Minister Crawford from the Ontario Ministry of Mines, who's going to be doing an interview, or a chat really, I should say, with Darren Hazelwood. So that concludes our morning. And yeah, well, we'll see. We'll do a tour as well during the day. We'll go and have a look. There's a hydrogen fuel cell, I think, car at the front there. The theme very much this year is breaking out of the echo chamber. And I know there's a lot of OEMs here, sort of Volvo, for example, are here. So the end users of the commodities that, of course, the mining companies here want to be selling. So that's very much a theme. Interesting, as I said when I spoke to Mark there, that 20% circa the interest is at both from companies and investors. So that's obviously quite a good sign. But throughout the course of the day, I'm sure we'll get a good idea of the different people we'll be talking to, what the sector is all about, really. But yes, in about a minute's time, we're just going to go down to Fulcrum Metals, so I think are actually just there in front of the Mines and Money Theatre. I know Ryan Mee is going to do a spotlight there, and Darren Hazelwood is going to do a spotlight there as well. So if we can catch that, we will. But in the interim, we're going to go down to Fulcrum Metals, and my colleague Pam Sidhu is with Fulcrum Metals.
Thanks, Mark. And yes, of course, we're here at Resourcing Tomorrow. It's a very exciting atmosphere here on the floor. Lots of companies, lots of buzz. There seems to be a lot of people walking around, taking a lot of interest in what is happening here. Some very interesting faces, and some of them, of course, you've seen already on Stockbox Media. One of them are a company that we love to speak to here on Stockbox. It's Fulcrum Metals. How are you doing this morning? I'm joined now by Ryan Mee and Aidan O'Hara. How are you this morning?
No, I'm very good, thank you. It's good to see so many people here, actually. We're obviously here to talk about our opportunity in the tailings business, and the fact that we're using very disruptive, non-toxic technology to unlock these lost resources is an immense opportunity for us.
It is indeed, and I'll talk to you more about that in just a moment. How are you doing, Aidan? You've come over especially from Dublin today.
All the way over from Dublin, Pam. We're very excited to be here. We've got a lot of meetings lined up, and we want to show people, what we have. We've got something very special with Fulcrum, and we're a technology-based company. We've moved into tailings, and there's a lot for people to get to know about Fulcrum here today.
Yes, indeed. So what are you hoping to get out of the 3 days that you're here?
We just want people to see what we have. We're quite unique to anyone else. I mean, we've got 2 projects in Curtin Lake. We've got the Tech Hughes and the Sylvanite project. We've got about 205k ounces of gold, which is on surface and ready to be, once we go through the whole process, ready to be washed and taken and sold. And so it's a very simple process. It's not exploration, it's production.
So you already know it's there. You're looking at the tailings, and you mentioned earlier on, Ryan, as well, that you've got this new technology. Tell us a little bit more about that. Is it Extract that you've partnershipped with?
Yes, it is. We've partnered with Extract on both of our projects here. We're looking to extend that partnership into the wider area of Ontario. But we've got some fantastic results from it. We think they're not just significant, but they could be disruptive to the industry, the wider industry. And we're really excited about it. And that's why we're here. We want to talk about it. We want to expand our investor base. We want to talk to industry. I mean, we've had a lot of interest from industry already. As Aidan said, we've got quite a few meetings lined up. Even outside this event, we've got some further meetings lined up too. So this is all about visibility of the company and getting the investors to understand what we have here, and the fact that, we moved on from just being an exploration company. We're looking at extracting lost resources from known, from deposits where we know there's gold. It's quite simple, really.
You know there's gold, and you're working with Extract with this new technology. Now, of course, I've seen the videos of you both out there on site. I want to hear a little bit more about that. It looked like a lot of fun. What was that like?
No, it was great fun. It was great to get out on site. I mean, the projects are quite vast, and it's only like when you see a picture like this picture down here, and then you actually go out onto site, it's quite vast. And to get the drone up there and to get flying the drone and to meet First Nations on site was just fantastic. There's a lot of support for the project. Ministry is very, very interested in tailings. They'd like to see the project happen. So it was just great to get out there and have some fun. Yeah. And of course I was caught landing the drone, but it was my first time, and I'm never going to do it again.
Really? You're never going to do it again?
I will. I've mastered it for the next video. Mastered it.
Well, my favourite part was when we got the shortest man out there in the field to do the hand augering, which is 1.2 metre sections of poles that go into the ground. So that's quite funny to watch him do that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, part of what you're doing, in terms of the tailings is not just gold, not just silver. Of course, we know what that is, but also tellurium as well. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So, in this Kirkland Lake area, there were 7 mines that produced 24 million ounces of gold in that immediate vicinity. Now, we knew that there would be some by-credits like silver, tellurium, but no one's really focused on that before. So, we went out there, we've done some additional sampling at TechUs. We found, 1.5 grams silver, 13, 14 grams of tellurium. Now, tellurium is actually a critical mineral recognised by the Canadian government. And we know that we can concentrate these up to much higher grades. So these are by-credits which will have a part to play in our projects, and who knows, they could actually cover the cost of the production and we get the gold thrown in for free, but that's something that we're looking into.
Yeah. And what would it be used for? Tell us a little bit more about it.
Now you're putting me on the spot. I believe it's in hardening metals and amongst other things, but it's a critical mineral.
And it has been recognised by Canada as a critical mineral.
Yeah, over the last 12 to 18 months, Canada published their list of critical minerals. Tellurium is on there. So actually we've got a very nice slant. So we've got obviously precious metals in your gold and silver, but also we've got this additional by-credit of tellurium, which could open up extra doors for us.
So you've got 2 projects, of course. I mean, I know you've spoken briefly about them both. Tell us a little bit more information about TechUs.
Well, there's a couple of things to bear in mind here. One, this is mine waste. So this is surface ore bodies. It's at surface. You can walk on it. You can pick it up. You can actually rub the tailings on your hands and you can see the gold.
Wow.
Exactly.
I think I need to do a site visit.
I'll have to check your pockets afterwards.
So we're talking about gold dust here. It's just there. It rubs off.
Yeah, this is really fine tailings. Like this has already been, we're not talking about finding a deposit. We're not talking about building a mine. We're not talking about any blasting. We're not bringing ore to surface. We're not crushing. We're not milling. That's already been done. This is very fine. It's like a powder. And that's why it's such a near-term, low-cost production opportunity. We're in Kirkland Lake, as I say. In that immediate vicinity where we are, there's been historic production, 24 million ounces of gold. So you can imagine there's an immense upside or potential to immediately scale out the operations that we have. And the fact that, with the leach testing, we hit nearly 60% recovery of gold in a leach time of 3 hours. Now, to put this into context, about a decade ago at our other project, Silver Knights, cyanide-based leaching testing was undertaken. That recovered 30% gold over 48 hours. So what we're talking about here, the results of tech, they are truly significant. They have industry defining potential here. We're doubling the amount of gold that you can recover. We're significantly cutting leach times, which feeds directly into cost. So it's already mined. It's at surface. We've got fantastic leaching results in terms of recovery and time, which is why it's a near-term, low-cost production opportunity. And the scale is quite obvious to see because we're in Kirkland Lake, where so much gold has been produced. So it's actually a very powerful concept. And I think there's a few other things to bear in mind. We are also delivering many positive ESG implications here. Okay, so we can regenerate the land back to its original state as part of the reprocessing. And to that extent, we can repurpose the mine sites. We can even repurpose the leftover tailings. And because we're not building mines, we're extracting gold from surface or waste already. That will help transition the industry into a lower carbon environment. So it helps that transition for the industry, which is vital.
So this is really good for the environment,
Well,
compared to traditional mining methods.
Well, of course, if you think about it, if you're building a mine, think about all the infrastructure you have to build, all the raw materials that you need. We don't need to do that. Someone's already done that, 50, 100 years ago. It's been sat there waiting for innovation to catch up. And you know what? We're here.
I'm smiling as I'm looking at you, Aidan, because you're thinking, yeah, it's been waiting for us.
Yeah, well, the thing about tailings across the globe generally, they haven't been able to unlock them because they haven't had the technology. And the technology that we're using has no cyanide. It's an ionic solution. It's pretty good for the environment, and obviously the recovery rates are quite significant.
Yeah.
And you're not putting any chemicals back into the environment. So this is like a breakthrough solution, and that's why Bechtel Engineering have done a 20-year deal with Extract Process Solutions on this, because they believe this is the technology that's going to disrupt the whole mining industry across the globe.
So you're using that word a lot, disrupt the industry. You see it doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. And what will happen is because the costs around mining are so huge, that mining companies will have to take on board this technology and use it to stay competitive.
Yes. Interesting. So, we've talked about what you're hoping to get out of this here today, but for investors watching you now, what would you say to them? Like, what are you hoping? When is this going? When are you going to start getting some results? What would you say to investors? What can they get out of this?
Well, we're a unique opportunity. We're a 4.6 million cap company. We've got a groundbreaking technology that for the tailings industry, and we're a step ahead of everyone else. And we're first mover advantage. So we're a very, very unique opportunity, and it'd be great for everybody here over the next 3 days to come down and chat with us, because I think in the UK, I don't think tailings are fully understood. So it would be great for people to come down, and we can explain the opportunity to them, and I know they will be impressed.
Well, it sounds very impressive. And of course, as I mentioned, I've seen your videos on the website as well. And it looks like you guys are having a lot of fun with the work that you're doing as well. Are you planning another trip out there anytime soon?
Yeah, we just can't wait to get out. So over the next couple of months, we'll be back out on site and jumping around and doing more orga drills. And, we're working on our environmental side of things as well. So we're really pushing ahead with this. We're very serious about it. It's a serious opportunity, and it's something that we can do. They say the average mine takes 18 to 20 years to build. This is a very, very near term turnaround.
So what kind of time frame are we looking at?
Well, it all depends on the environmental side of things, but 18, 24 months. That's what we'd be looking at. We're really pushing for that.
So you managed to reduce it down from years, what it would be traditionally, to months.
Absolutely, yes. We push down the timeline. We push down the cost, the capex. It's just truly a unique opportunity. Yeah, and we're very fortunate to have it, and we really appreciate the position we're in. We're very excited.
That's great. And Ryan, any final words from yourself? What would you like to say to investors?
I think actually my final sign off is this. As Aidan touched just there, we're 4.5 million cap, and we've got a very exciting tailings business and future ahead of us. But fundamentally, we're underpinned by our gold exploration assets. We've got a 107,000 ounce gold resource there, ready for expansion. At Tully, we've got the Big Bear property, which is ready for drill ready for discovery there. And early this year, we optioned out our uranium assets, which could bring $3.3 million into the company over the next few years. So I would argue the tailings assets are thrown in for free. So I think we're a fantastic opportunity for investors. And as I say, we're here to expand our investor base, the awareness of the company and what we're doing. The company's changed a lot over the last 12 months. Next 12 months is promising to be even more exciting. So really looking forward to it.
You just mentioned then your uranium. Tell us a little bit more about that just before we move on.
Yeah, so we strategically, when we first listed, we had a couple of uranium assets. It's high grade, up to, off the top of my head, about 6% in grab samples. And then we strategically expanded those projects very cost effectively. We performed some early stage exploration. The results came back fantastic, widespread uranium throughout the projects. And then we sought opportunities to divest those so we can focus on gold. So we signed a deal with a company called Terra Volcanica over in Canada. So there's a 4-year option agreement with those guys out there. Over that term, we get $3.3 million worth of cash and shares, and they have a commitment to spend $3.25 million on those assets. So we're saving our shareholders dilution in the progression of those assets, and we get to share in the success. So it's a very good strategic move for us. It's allowed us to move forward with the gold tailings business, and I think we've proven to be a very innovative, forward-thinking company, and that's what you get with us.
Wonderful. Well, I do like your, what you've got up here as well. Turning waste into gold is the headline there. Can we just get a shot of this here? Turning waste into gold. Tailings opportunity, and of course, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about this in more detail. It's been wonderful speaking to you in person. But actually, just before we head back to Mark, because of course you've both been on, yourself, Ryan, we see you on Stockbox regularly. But Aidan, I'd like to know, how did this start up? How did you both come together? How did you get involved in this?
Well, myself and Ryan know each other quite a long time, over 15 years. And we have been investing together in the stock market. And sometimes you'd be invested in a company, and then something would go wrong, and you'd be like, why did they do that? So we just said, we got to have our own company. So we've been working since 2018 on different projects in the States and around, and eventually it all came to Fulcrum. And even the technology side of things with Extract, our relationship with Extract is quite a personal relationship, and we've been good friends with the president of the company, William Floorman, since 2018 when we first met him, and we kept our relationship going. So and then just Fulcrum came about, and then we hooked up with William again. He says, "Look, guys, we're ready to go with the technology," and we were just delighted to hear that. So that's how we got straight then into tailings. We didn't hang around. Yeah. And obviously, there's loads of opportunities in tailings because no one could ever unlock the treasure chest because they didn't have the technology. That's right. So we're really are ahead of the curve.
Well, as you've mentioned a few times, you disrupted the industry. You're ahead of the game with the technology that you're using, and there's a lot of tailings that we're talking about here. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. We do wish you the very best over the next few days. And now let's go back to Mark.
Well, thank you very much, Pam, for that. It's nice to get an interview there with Ryan and the team, of course, of Fulcrum Metals. That's very much like boys searching for gold. I've seen them out in Ontario there in their pickup with their drone, driving across this sort of tundra of tailings, and yeah, it's got very much a sort of gold hunter vibe to it. So I hope the guys do very well. They've got a very active season coming up throughout the course of 2025. So, of course, as I say, we are live. We've been live since our second attempt to go live this morning, and we're going to hopefully run throughout the course of the day. But, of course, in a live environment, you can never expect what's going to happen. Of course, I was hoping to speak to Dean McPherson from the Toronto Stock Exchange, but we can't find him. He's not around at the minute. So maybe he's got called into meetings or what have you, but we haven't actually managed to locate him at the moment. So hopefully this doesn't become a recurring theme throughout the course of the rest of the day. What we'll do now is before we move on to our next feature, which is back on with Pam, where she's going to be talking to Forum Energy Metals. We'll probably just take maybe a 10-minute break here at Stopbox, just to show you a shot of the floor here, and if we can find Dean, of course, we'll bring him in. If not, we'll go straight to Janet Micklejohn at Forum Energy Metals. So stay tuned on Stopbox. We'll go to a bit of a 10-minute break now. Well, hello and welcome back. Of course, we didn't manage to find Dean. Maybe if we find him later on in the day, or indeed tomorrow, we'll get an interview with him. I have just seen John Forward, who we're talking to at 2:00 today. He's from Lowell Resources Fund out of Australia. So that's at least one of the guests that knows where we are, and hopefully will be coming back to us later on today. But of course, we're now going to go and talk to Forum Energy Metals. So Janet Micklejohn is here representing Forum Energy Metals, and Pam is at their stand now. So Pam, over to you.
I'm now joined by Janet Micklejohn, the director of Forum Energy Metals. How are you doing today, Janet?
I'm very well. Thank you very much, Pam. It's really nice to be here again this year at Resourcing Tomorrow.
And how are you finding the vibe this time round? Of course, it's still early days. We've only just started, but there seems to be a lot of excitement in the air.
Yeah, I think there's certainly, just even before coming, there seems to be a lot more companies that I know of that are attending this year. So it'll be interesting to see. And I do think that it's sort of evolving into the kind of go-to conference, particularly for those, transition metals. So, yeah.
Go-to conference globally, of course, because we've got people here like yourself from all over the world. You've traveled from Canada for this.
Yep. So I'm Forum Energy Metals is based in Vancouver, Canada. And I joined the board in, I guess it was December, almost 3 years ago. So December 2021. And largely, my background is capital markets. So I've actually was around for the last uranium boom in 2006, working for National Bank, and we did a number of financings for UEC and Energy Metals and Palin. So it's nice to be back in an environment where people like uranium again. So It's kind of exciting. I think it's going to be an interesting sort of go forward here.
Yeah, well, that's quite interesting that you mentioned the uranium there, because of course. Last year there was it was doing really, really well. What do you think about what's happening with it now?
Well, there's been so many changes in the last 6 months, and I think first and foremost there were 25 countries that signed a declaration so that nuclear energy will be tripled by 2050. And so I think what you're starting to see is that the governments are more bipartisan. So it doesn't matter which government is in power. Everybody is sort of supporting this nuclear, knowing that that's really the only pathway to a decarbonized world. But I think what's interesting for us, particularly in the last couple of months, is this bifurcation that's happening in the market. So most of the supply comes out of the east. And in fact, Kazatomprom, which is in Kazakhstan, supplies 40% of the market and has recently announced that they're going to give 50% of it to China. And then most of the demand comes out of the West. So that, and of course, there's also been some positioning between Russia and the United States. So I think there's a real awareness now that we need to worry not just about how much energy we have, but about the security and independence in the West of that energy. And I think that plays well for us because, well, everybody knows that the Athabasca is, one of the richest basins in the whole world. It only supplies 15% of the world's supply. So even if you brought on new mines, even if you restarted some of the mines that have been offline, it's still not going to be enough. So what we actually need is another tier 1 district, and that's what we're focused on doing at Forum Energy Metals.
Yes, and of course, we were just talking then about the uranium from last year. So it was all the talk last year. Now, of course, you've just given us the wider picture on that, but it's remained steady. Do you think this is the new norm at circa 80?
No, I think the new norm is, it's so complicated in the uranium market, because most of the actual commodity is contracted. So what actually trades and the value, what we say is the price of uranium is a little, in my mind, contrived. So I think really what we should be focusing on is what people are actually talking about and actually doing, and that's building reactors and building enrichment facilities, and we've seen that even Orano, the French uranium company that's state-owned, has announced that they're building an enrichment facility in Tennessee. So if these things actually start to happen, that demand for uranium and at the supply level is going to be is going to grow exponentially. But I think there's still that wait and see if they're actually able to get some of these things built. Great intentions, but we have maybe failed in the past. So let's put everything into it and see if we can actually take advantage of this new renaissance once again.
Yes. Oh, I like the way that you've just worded that. Take advantage of this new renaissance. It sounds very exciting. And of course, even what you explained there from what's happening with Kazakhstan and China taking 50% of that, there's a demand there. The rest of the world needs this. And, we would love to speak to you more about how things are going with Forum. So I understand your Nunavik project in Canada. The project that you've got in Nunavik. How is that going? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, this goes back to when we're talking about needing a new Tier 1 district in the West. So the Thelon Basin in Nunavut is actually a geologic analog to the Athabasca, meaning it's the same age, same type of rocks. So people are exploring up there for that unconformity basement type deposits. The difficulty is that because it's very remote and there's no infrastructure, there hasn't been a lot of exploration. So we actually staked and have the largest, most advanced exploration property of any junior up there. And what's interesting is we staked it in 2021 and we have 95,000 hectares, but there's been over $60 million put into the property. So Cameco spent $50 million between 2005 and 2012 and made 2 discoveries and a number of high impact unconformity targets. And then we've spent the last 2 years spending over $13 million just sort of reconfirming their results and extending them. And what's really interesting is the other main player up there is Orano. So they actually sit right next door to us. They have 133 million pounds that they discovered. They actually put forward a development permit to build a mine back in 2012, but when Fukushima happened, they weren't prepared to commit to a timeline. So they've put it on care and maintenance. So that's very interesting because our most advanced exploration property is 5 kilometers from their Kigavik deposit. So, there's probably some pathway at some point for at least that property while we continue to explore all the high impact unconformity type deposits.
Yeah, and I understand your assays have been delayed. What have you seen so far?
Yeah, it's been a very frustrating fall. The SRC in Saskatchewan has been very, very backed up. So where we thought we would have all our assays from our 30-hole drill program out by now, we've really only received 2. So and those were both on the Tadagak. For the most part, we had 1.33% U308 over, I think it was 7 meters, and then. But there was grades in there of upwards of 8% over 0.2 meters. And then, so over that whole sort of area, it was 17 meters at 0.64. So it's looking almost exactly like Kigavik. So, which is good because if at some point it will probably be part of what will, the resource that will extend the life of Kigavik if it gets restarted.
Yeah. Interesting. Now, very briefly, Janet, because we're going to be going back to Mark in just a moment, but Saskatchewan, what's the latest developments there?
In Saskatchewan? Yeah. We've kind of taken a different approach where we're really concerned about allocation. So we've got 9 properties there that are joint ventures, but for the most part, we're hoping that we can find people that will earn in on them. Our strategy is really to focus on what we think we can get the highest return for investment into the ground. So that's why we're focused on the Thelon.
And what are you hoping to get out of the next few days here?
Overall, I think I think like everybody, trying to get our story out, trying to get people to understand where the Thelon is, what the opportunity is there, and I hopefully that's what we achieve. So yeah. And make some good contacts as well. So
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much, Janet, for taking the time to talk to us today. We do wish you the very best over the next few days. But now back to Mark.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Pam, for that. Yes, we are live now with Dean McPherson. Nice to catch up with you. How are you doing?
Well, thank you. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, so you're from the Toronto Stock Exchange.
Yes, I am.
So when did you fly in?
I came in on Sunday.
Okay. And what would you like to achieve while you're here?
Well, just to connect with potential companies that are looking to join our markets, as well as investors who are participating in our markets or would like to participate in our markets. It's good to get a feel from them as to what they're looking for or how we can help.
Excellent. I know there's a lot of Toronto Stock Exchange listed companies here. There's a few London as well, but there's a lot of Toronto Stock Exchange companies here. How would you say that the year has fared for, let's say, junior miners on the Toronto Stock Exchange throughout the course of this year?
It's been very encouraging here. I think that's the term I would like to use, encouraging. Certainly last year we were coming off a very low level, if you will, a bottom. This year, starting from February, has been very encouraging. We started out with a pretty large financing. First Quantum raised $1 billion in our markets in February, and we've seen a steady lift in terms of financing activity in the market since then. We've also seen a number of new companies coming into our markets. We have over 35 companies listed with us now, new companies joining the markets for us. We haven't had the large IPOs that people are used to on the TSX itself, but we've seen a lot of juniors coming into the market. I think that has a lot to do with where commodity prices have been for the year. That's been trending quite positively, and I think new entrants are coming in. I think what's holding back the larger IPOs certainly has been some, I would say mostly around general global geopolitical situations perhaps have sort of held things a bit in check. But I think once those are removed, I think you'll start to see the larger IPOs joining the juniors that we've been seeing joining the market.
So you say you've seen about 35 new
listings
this year. Yeah, yes. Okay. But the IPOs are sort of holding back more for
what they call big IPOs. You have to understand our markets we have a two-tier system. We have a junior, the TSXV, and we have the TSX, the senior market. So the TSXV is generally a good indicator of the junior exploration marketplace. So what we're seeing is a lot of new companies joining the market, but the large IPOs, which gets the people excited and gets all the headlines, we haven't had those yet. And I think really those are still in the pipeline. I've been talking to them quite regularly, and I think they're close. So I think generally interest rate environment was keeping back the market, those big IPOs for sure, holding back that pipeline. I think now that interest rates have been trending down and we have seen several cuts in the US in particular, the Fed rates, the market generally has been more optimistic. And I think there's wider expectation that you'll start to see those larger IPOs, especially once the geopolitical situation gets to provide some sort of consistency in terms of expectation.
It's interesting that you say that there's been quite a few sort of IPOs, sort of, if you like, waiting in the background, so to speak, maybe for a better environment. So I know you won't be able to disclose too much information about who those IPOs are, but what you're seeing is making you feel fairly confident about when the geopolitical environment, becomes more favorable, you might start to see quite a flood of new IPOs.
Absolutely, yeah. We have. It's quite an encouraging and frustrating period the year has been. Because the market, the pipeline is there. And as I said, the IPOs are lined up, waiting for the right window to enter the marketplace. The bankers are telling companies, hold on, it's not right yet. And as I said, there are two elements preventing the market from being right. One was certainly the economic situation, inflationary environment. But now that interest rates are coming down, that's half of the equation. I think the geopolitical situation is the other half. So I think over the next 6 months, if we can have some sort of stability in terms of expectation in that regard, I think the market will open up quite significantly. And you will see some of those pipelines being realized.
Not to get too political, but do you think the Trump administration will, at least it brings some sort of certainty, doesn't it? At least now it's over and done with, so to speak.
Exactly. I think that's what the market doesn't like, is uncertainty. So certainly he's been quite clear in terms of how he wants to approach those geopolitical situations. And I think the market generally, and we've seen the market respond to his to that election. And I think, that certainly provides a lot more clarity for the market.
And in terms of sort of appetite amongst North American, Canadian investors. Are you seeing sort of an inflow of capital, or would you say the capital's been a little bit hard to come by through the course of this year, or is interest still there?
Their interest is still there. We're seeing improved financing activity. That's usually a key indicator of how what the capital is thinking. What we've seen is the capital going to stories, projects, management teams that are known with a history of delivery. So that comes back again to the cautionary environment. So investors are putting money into management teams that they know, who have delivered in the past, projects that they know, and not so much the stuff that's unknown. And that's why the new listings or the IPOs have been held back and sort of put to a point where I think the risk environment will improve. But certainly the appetite is there. We've seen, as I said, we started the year with the First Quantum $1 billion bought deal raised in Canada. And certainly for us, that's a record financing in terms of the bought deal structure that we have in Canada. So that was quite encouraging. And that's not only continued throughout the year. We've seen this financing activity picked up. We've over $8 billion in capital raised to our market so far this year in terms of mining, and certainly half of that, the mining accounts for more than half of the financing activity in our market. So, right. While the entire market, equity markets globally have been suffering, technology, diversified industries, etc., mining has been leading the comeback really in equity markets for us. Okay. So that's significant. So I think that's great.
Good. And mining, of course, as well, mining investments. Interesting that you say that they account sort of half of what you have on the exchange there. The attitude from investors when it comes to investing in mining companies and that sort of expectation of it's a long-term investment and it's also quite high risk. Do you see, because from a London point of view, certainly what I think we see here is it's a bit more short-term mindset, a bit more of a trader's environment. People are chasing that sort of instant sort of gain gratification. Are you seeing a similar shift amongst the investors, or are they a bit more aware of the reality of a mining company and it is like an investment for the long term?
Well, so yeah, we do have that more patient investor mindset. Canada certainly has a long history of mining, over 170 years in mining, Canada itself, and the stock exchange certainly is right there as well. So we have an ecosystem that's quite familiar with the mining sector and understands that it has its risk, and it also requires patience. And so we are lucky to have that. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Toronto Stock Exchange is so popular for mining in particular, is that we have an ecosystem, both companies and investors who participate in our market, the service company, the advisory companies that participate as well, all understand the nature of mining and realize that it is a long-term, you need this long-term mindset. So yes, I think we benefit from that, and think, in spite of the short-term excitements that usually follows technology companies, etc. Sometimes you have those, yes, but always mining is consistent and remains the biggest part of our market because of that history, I think.
And of course, Canada's got a big, rich history of mining, hasn't it, as well, on the ground as well?
Close to 200 years, so, and mining is a big part of our economy as well. So it is a part of us. We are mining, TSX and Canada go hand in hand, and it's a huge advantage for us to be located in Canada with this rich history in mining. And, we're very fortunate and very happy to have a stock market that leads the world globally in terms of mining equity markets. So, I expect that to continue. As I said, I think investors certainly are aware that it requires a long-term view, and they're willing to stick with companies through the rough times and wait for those windows, as I mentioned.
Final question, Dean. I know you've got a busy day. How do you see sort of next year for the junior mining space? And I don't know if you can comment on perhaps where you're seeing interest or commodities that might be a bit more popular, let's say, or more hot commodities, but just give investors, our audience is very much sort of private investor audience who'll be looking to potentially take positions in junior companies. What do you see for the next few years in this space in particular?
I think the energy transition theme will continue going forward. Certainly, I think as a result, copper, lithium, even, people, going back to our conversation around long-term mindset, people are a little bit less excited about lithium these days because the prices come off so much, and the sector is a bit, the commodity is a bit not as exciting and attractive as it was a couple of years ago, but certainly I think it will continue to be quite relevant because of this energy transition theme and the role it plays. There are opportunities, maybe opportunities in the future for it to be replaced in the technology, but for certainly I don't think it will ever go away. So I think lithium will play a significant role going forward as well. I think copper naturally will play a significant role, and also lots of people have been turned on to uranium, and realizing how critical that is and how critical of a critical mineral that is as well. So I think those commodities certainly, and of course precious metals, just from the economic standpoint around gold and of course silver plays in the energy transition as well. Gold, just from its economics alone, will continue to be a significant commodity in the future. So I'm seeing in 2025 here a pretty exciting environment. As I said earlier, the macroeconomic situation has started to trend down with almost three Fed cuts, rate cuts so far. There's expectation there might be another one this year. So certainly I think that factor, in addition to the geopolitical situation that we talked about, the expectation of that just creating some sort of predictability in the next 6 months, I think those factors combined just spells a pretty boom year for mining. As I said, the energy transition theme around those external factors creates an environment that I think is pretty exciting for junior mining going forward.
Well, thank you very much. That's great to get that little soundbite from you. Of course, last year at Resourcing Tomorrow, uranium was all of the talk because it had gone up to that sort of all-time highs. And it's nice to see that really stabilizing over the course of this year. Really, it's pretty much where it was when we were here a year ago. Gold, of course, performing very well. You're the second person today to say that copper is really the commodity to be watching. I was talking to Barrick earlier today as well. So that's fantastic to get that insight. Thank you very much for your time, Dean. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. I'll let you go and enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you, Dean. That was Dean McPherson there from the Toronto Stock Exchange. So we're hoping to speak to Critical Minerals Association, but I don't know if we've found the person yet. No, so that's Jeff Townsend, who, again, we haven't managed to find Jeff. But after Jeff, I think we're going to go back to the floor for Capital Metals. So we might have to take a sort of a 5-minute break while we get ready to go down to the floor to speak to Capital Metals. And of course, if we do find Jeff, then we will bring him, because I would like to talk to him from the Critical Minerals Association. I do believe they have a stand here, so we could always go down to their stand and just grab them if we need to. But for now, thank you very much. We'll take a bit of a 5-minute break, and then we'll be back with Capital Metals, and Pam will be taking that interview.
And I'm now with Greg Marta of Capital Markets. How are you doing today, Greg?
Very good, Pam. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. You've come all the way from Australia today.
I have. Back to London. It's a wonderful time of the year to come to London.
Really?
Down to cold.
You've timed it well. A few days ago, I think this time last week, we had snow.
I heard. That's okay.
Yeah. Of course, you come from a very different climate being in Australia. It's in the middle of summer there right now.
It is indeed. Yeah.
Well, you know what? It's great to have you here. How long have you been involved in capital markets? Tell us a little bit about
Capital Metals. I've been involved. Yes, I've been involved since just 2018. So, and this company bought the project in Sri Lanka 2016. So it's been a long time coming, but it's a prize worth pursuing. It's one of the highest grade mineral sands deposits in the world.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that. What is mineral sands? Because, of course, we've got a lot of mining companies here today, a lot of exploration companies here, and they talk about gold, silver, uranium, things that we know. Mineral sands, tell us more.
So mineral sands, the predominant usage of mineral sands, certainly in our case, is titanium dioxide, which goes into pigment, which goes into paints. That's probably the biggest use of the basic mineral sands. But we also have uses of titanium and titanium metal, and then there's zircon, rutile. Rutile and ilmenite is what goes into the titanium, and for us we have garnet, and garnet goes into sandblasting. So fairly, GDP related flows for how the pricing moves. So it's not the sexiest of industries, but it's generally fairly high margin, very long life.
Yes.
And in our case, with our grade, it's a very high margin operation.
Yeah. Very high margin. So you had some news only yesterday where you significantly reduced your capex in stage 1 production. How have you done this?
So we just looked at the flow sheet and we said, there was a fair bit of fat in it when it was first designed. And we also worked out what we can delay till subsequent stages. So we cut it down. It was, for the first stage, was 30 million US, just under. And we're now just over 20 million US. So we're hoping to make a decision to start construction in Q2 of next year. We have mining licenses already. We've done our EIA, so we're just got to tick a few more boxes, get that funding so that we can kick it off in Q2 next year.
Yeah. So for future prospects of the project, you'll be, as you mentioned, you'll be kicking off at Q2 next year. But what does it actually mean, in terms of the prospects here?
So for us, it's about a 9 to 12 month construction phase. And so in the first year, we'll probably pay back that capex in less than 12 months, and then we're self-funding. And then the idea is to expand the project through magnetic separation plants and non-magnetic separation plants. You further refine the product over time, adding value to the product at each stage. So we've initially got a 10-year mine life, but we've got a huge amount of upside because we've only drilled to on average 1.6 meters. And we know that the deposit from some holes go 14 meters and beyond at higher grades than what we've got in our resource. So we think this will be a 50 million ton deposit eventually, and it'll probably be a 20, 30 year mine life, not the 10 that we have now.
Interesting. Let's just bring it back a little bit. Why Sri Lanka? How did that come about?
Yeah, it's a good question. Great place to visit.
Of course, it's on my list.
Amazingly friendly people, very tolerant people, really nice people to work with. Politically, over the last 10 years, they've had some of their issues, and they've had a fair bit of corruption at the senior level. And interestingly, just very recently, a new party, the NPP party, just got elected in on a huge majority, and their platform was anti-corruption and anti-government largesse. So they're cutting the fat out of the top levels of the bureaucracy and government, and they are cleaning up the act. So there was just too many, the old school, the old boy network that had their hands out, and that for us as a listed company, we can't play in that game. So it's been a challenge, and we're hoping now that we've got a lot cleaner platform to be able to grow the company.
Yeah, because I can imagine navigating something like this out there can be quite a challenge, as you've mentioned. So are you finding now it's easier to work in, or is it one of those wait and see games?
Well, we don't have time to wait and see. We are moving ahead as quickly as we can. But the general election, only finished the middle of November. Right, so there's a lot of new faces in Parliament and a lot of new faces in our operating area. So we're just getting to know those. But it's a very strong, what we're seeing is a very strong power base, and the people that they've put in the positions that influence our activities, we think are decent people. We've got pretty good network, and so we're quite happy with how it's going. It's early days, but so far so good.
So tell us about your project out there. What kind of distance does it cover? What kind of space are we talking about here?
So our project is on the easternmost point of Sri Lanka. It's sort of a little bit. Here we go. Look, it's this little Sri Lanka India up here, and our resource all comes from the Bay of Bengal, and so that yellow section is about 60 kilometres long, and the deposit runs up to 300-400 metres inland from the beach. So it's a large area that we've only covered a very small part of.
Yes, and are you looking to expand out there as well?
We've got enough on our hands at the moment. There's a bunch of other. We're the most advanced foreign developer in the country. They're all sort of watching us to see how we go. We know that there are other opportunities out there. At the moment, our currency's not right. Our attention is on the deposit itself and on developing that. But once we get that right, there will be a lot of opportunities. So we've got big plans, but we've got to walk before we can run.
So what's next? What are the milestones that we're looking at here?
So this week is all about educating our shareholders, educating the market that we only have a very small funding task to get to a high margin, short payback. And what we want the market to realise is, wow, that's small, that's eminently fundable. And we are targeting not to need any equity, any topco equity to do that. And so I think that will help result in a re-rate of the share price as people realise that they may not get to participate. Of course, if it does respond appropriately, then we would love them to participate. But we have a plan to raise the money through off-takers, which are the end users, the end buyers of the products, and they do that by prepaying for a certain level of production. We're talking to some equipment providers about providing vendor finance, and we are talking to some potential local partners to help with the funding task as well. So there's lots of balls in the air.
Yeah. And how much are you looking to raise?
So we need that full 20 million to be able to start that capex.
Right. So
we're not here to raise money, and it's outside of this forum. We've got our own conversations that are happening.
And what are you hoping to achieve here over the next 3 days?
That education, this is a small task to get to high margin, short payback. And, there's not a lot of those things out in the market at the moment. A lot of them are big capex, big funding tasks in a very tight, tough market.
Yeah. So if there was somebody watching right now that was thinking, well, you know what, I'd like to know more, I'd like to invest, what would you say to them?
Well, obviously we're listed on AIM, so there's opportunity to buy on market, which we would highly encourage people to do. Otherwise, approach us. We're always open to different structuring, but at the moment we've got, as I said, we've got some pretty healthy conversations going that we're quite confident we'll be able to pull that off by Q2 next year.
And are you meeting with a lot of people while you're here in London?
Well, there's 3 days at this conference, and I think we're probably about 2/3 full already. So that leaves us a little bit of time for a bit of headspace, but I think that'll get filled up pretty quickly.
Yeah. And so you're going to continue to focus on Sri Lanka. That's your main project.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. As I said, walk before you could run. Get that cash flow, then we'll start to look at other things.
What kind of timelines are we looking at here?
So our construction should only be 9 to 12 months. So we should be in production by early 2026.
In production, 2026. Yeah. So you're looking to raise the cash and then go into production.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And is it your first time at this event?
No, in a former life, I've been to Mines and Money and now Resourcing Tomorrow. But I haven't been here for a long time. I've tended to try to stay away from England in December.
Well, I think England saw you coming and the snow came before you got here, Greg. But no, are you noticing a difference? Are you noticing a difference with this event from previous visits?
Look, it's been such a long time. They've all changed. There's so many of these types of events. So far, so good. You're my second meeting, so.
I'm your second meeting. Well, I'm privileged, Greg. It's wonderful to speak to you, and it's wonderful to see what you're doing in Sri Lanka. As you mentioned, it's something different. It's something rare. It's something new. It's a part of the world where many people aren't doing what you're doing, and it sounds like the infrastructure and everything is being set up for you to just go, full systems ahead.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Are you going to be out there anytime soon?
I'm heading there straight after this event, so I'm there all next week. Hopefully to meet a lot of the new ministers that have just been appointed, and obviously see our team. We've got quite a big team there.
And your team is from Sri Lanka, are they?
Yes, in Sri Lanka, our team was probably 90% of the whole company's team is Sri Lankan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, Greg, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today at Startbox.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. Yeah, no, that's great. Well, that's me talking to Greg. And, this is such an exciting event, Greg. I think we're going to take a little walk, have a walk around and see who we can find to speak to. But thank you, Greg.
Okay.
It's been great. And no doubt we'll catch you a little bit later on.
All right.
Yeah, that's great. Let's head this way, Peter. Sorry, Greg, I'm walking into you there. So as you can see, there is a buzz happening in this area. I'm just going to show you what is happening over here. So if you can just come this way, we can see that there's lots of talks happening here. There's a larger venue downstairs where people are doing even, talks for an even larger audience. But as we can see, this is full. And if we just take a look around, we can see there's a buzz about the place. There's so many people from different parts of the world. Now, we've got some interesting rocks just over here. Let's have a look and see what this is. So this is Comex. Hi. Hello, I'm Pam from Stockbox. I was wondering, can we just speak to you for a moment? I'm just seeing some of your rocks here. So you're from Comex, Multisensory Material Identification. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, it's actually a sensor-based sorting technology. So we remove the impurities in the early stage of mining. So we eliminate the contamination of the environment by reducing the tailings. So the less processing waste from the mine to produce the same amount of material, the same amount of concentrate. So it's a very environmental friendly method.
An environmentally friendly way of getting the most out of the tailings. Where in the world are you based? Where are your projects?
We are a Norwegian Polish company, so most of our technologies are installed in Poland, where we have the test center, and we do the test work for any mine in the world. So actually, we have a global activity, but mostly the European activity is the key point.
Yeah. Yeah. So where have you yourself come from today? In fact, first of all, please do introduce yourself as well.
Well, my name is Jacek Kolacz. I come from Poland, basically, but I live in Norway, where we created a company between Norway and Poland related to the mining activities. So it's a combination of newest technologies and old traditional mining. So I think it's a good fit.
And have you been to Resourcing Tomorrow before, or is it the first time?
Yes, it's our second time.
Are you noticing a difference?
Sorry?
Are you noticing a difference from previous events?
Well, yeah, it's more mines now. I mean, we can see it's more activity. It's more presentations, more people around. So I think it's improving.
And do you have a busy few days ahead?
Oh,
a lot of meetings lined up, perhaps?
Absolutely. I'm just already late for one, maybe.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. That's wonderful. But now, as we can see, it's busy. There's a lot happening here. We're going to continue to walk the floor a little bit later on and introduce more people to you. But now I'm going to go back to my colleague, Mark. Over to you, Mark.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I'm joined by Marley Palin from BHP Explore.
Lovely to meet you.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much for your time. Yeah, you've come in from abroad. Where have you come from?
Yeah, I'm Australian originally, but I'm US based in our Arizona office at the moment.
Okay, right, okay. And
Yeah.
you're here for the full 3 days?
Yeah, we're here for the week. It's a great opportunity to obviously get the conference, but also meet a bunch of our partners that are in town.
Okay, good. So the BHP Explore program, and give us the sort of the elevator pitch, what that's all about.
Give you the spiel. So Explore's in its third year now. It's an accelerator program, and it's very much modeled off the Silicon Valley sort of technology accelerator. And for us, it's all about finding some of the best junior companies out in the ecosystem who have got great opportunities, bringing them in, spending 6 months with them, and really throwing everything we can as BHP at accelerating those opportunities. So we run an open call. A whole range of companies apply. We've had over 1,000 over the last 3 years. We go through all of the applicants, decide on a final cohort of about 8 companies. And then for each of those cohort companies, we give them a 500K equity-free grant. And so it's 500K to spend on their exploration work program over 6 months. And during that 6 months, we throw everything we can to support them. So connections to our BHP vendor ecosystem, connections to our internal subject matter expertise. They get business coaching, technical coaching, leadership coaching. It's all about accelerating exploration outcomes.
Excellent. Is it quite an innovative venture, would you say? Is it something that other companies are doing?
Yeah, I mean, we were definitely the first in this industry, and the first to apply kind of that accelerator model to the mineral space. My background is tech accelerators, and so when I started working with this team, I wasn't really sure how I was going to design a program that sort of fit within minerals exploration, but the tech models worked really well, and it's been great for BHP to be able to pioneer it.
That's really cool. Yeah, so you've come from tech into mining effectively.
I have, big sideways jump.
Yeah. No, but that's really good because, of course, the tech industry, it's all about sort of rapid growth, isn't it? And seed capital as well. A lot of excitement around that. I think we need to bring the sort of excitement back into mining.
Oh, 100%. One of the conversations that was here today was making mining sexy again, and I quite liked that phrase. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, because I mean it is cool. It's basically treasure hunting, isn't it? And the world needs it. But I think there's attitudes that are perhaps not quite right about mining. And
there's an education piece, but I think programs like Explore that feel and look a little bit different are helping shape that perception.
So you said about 1,000 companies applied. So
over the 3 years,
and that's from all over the world.
So we're jurisdiction commodity agnostic. Who we bring into the cohort is very much aligned to BHP strategy at the time on jurisdictions or on commodities. But we're interested in sort of anything because, you never know how something might fit with our portfolio.
And do you get all sorts of companies applying right from, we think we might have something to actually, yes, we do have something, but...
Yeah, definitely. And so like a couple of our previous, in the first year, we had a researcher that worked for a professor that worked for a university. He didn't have a company. He didn't have a tenement package. He had an idea. And so Explore for him was about building a business. He had to actually incorporate a business for us to be able to pay him the 500K in the first place, right down to some of the bigger companies, like Kingsrose that had a decent war chest under their belts when they came into Explore, companies that have got multiple projects. Some are at drilling stage, some are really early conceptual.
Okay, so your criteria, if you like, is a lot comes from BHP's criteria at the time, what the companies, corporates looking at. But also the individual pitch from the companies as well.
100%. And so we look for, commodity fit, where it is in the world, and whether that's an area, a region that's of interest to us that we want to learn more about or we're already doing work in. And then it really comes down to team. And so, BHP Explore is about building long-term partnerships. We like to say that the program gives us 6 months to date you before we marry you, but the intent is really building like long-term sustainable partnershis.
Right, okay.
And so we're looking for weapon teams that are thinking in the right way, that are really open to collaboration, that are really willing to work on and with BHP to hopefully find a big discovery.
Interesting you say 6 months to date us before we sort of commit to marry. So it's not just like a company can apply and it's like a one-off thing and that's kind of it and you have no interest anymore. It could be quite a long-term partnership.
Definitely. And we bring everyone into the cohort with like the first assumption that it will be a long-term partnership.
Right.
Obviously there are things that we learn throughout the 6 months that, the project may, we may kill itself and, actually disprove the thesis, which is great. That's a good news story. It might not be the right fit for our portfolio right now, depending on what the project is, but the partnerships for us are long term. And, 50% of the companies that we've brought into Explore, we've looked to convert into follow-on long-term partnerships. Some of those are really clear, like project level earn-ins. Some of them are really big regional scale generative alliances. And so the deal shapes look very different. And even for the companies that we've not necessarily invested in afterwards, we still keep really close relationships with them. We're running a drinks with all of them. I'm meeting them this afternoon. Like, we're a little Explore family now. And the hope is, if this project wasn't the right fit, we want to be the first people they call when they find something cool next year to say, come work with BHP.
Brilliant. And I mean, are you getting involved day to day, BHP, or is it very much like you come to us, you can use our expertise as and when you need it?
Yeah, so throughout the 6-month program, we very much take the lead from the individual businesses on how much support they want. And so for some of them, they're really coming to the program because they want some technical support, unpacking, data set or, a point of view on what, methodology, geophysics technique is the right one to use. For others, they're quite clear on what they're doing, and they just may need some, business support on, strategy, where to take it next. And so we very much take the lead on how much they want to lean in or out of Explore. We have a set of infrastructure, which is the technical coaching, the business and strategy coaching, and the leadership coaching, and then a series of master classes that they can open up to their wider teams to really focus on that capability building.
Excellent. And you said sort of 1,000 companies had applied. How many have you sort of taken on in this recent wave?
Yeah, so we haven't announced the cohort yet, but it's looking at one of our biggest yet, which is really exciting, and one of our highest quality yet. So year 3, one of the questions I get asked a lot is, when are you going to kind of hit market saturation? When are we going to have seen it all? And year 3, we saw a whole bunch of teams and projects that we'd never seen before, a whole bunch of projects that we've loved. It's definitely our highest quality, most exciting cohort yet. So that's giving me a lot of energy. And for some of them, of the cohort that we're bringing in this year, 2 of them have applied to Explore twice before, and one of them 3 times. And so it just shows that even if it's not the right project the first time, it doesn't mean that it's not going to be the next time.
Future, yeah. Okay. Well, I know that you work with E-Star Resources.
Yes, we love E-Star.
You love E-Star?
Yeah.
And Alex Walker, of course. And Alex Walker is regularly on Stockbox, and he's got quite a good following in London here. And I like the project as well. It looks really good. And Alex is a good CEO, in it for the right reasons. So he moved all his family over to Kazakhstan so he could really focus on that business. So can you say what you liked about sort of E-Star Resources?
Yeah, so I mean, Alex and Chris were a dynamo team. They had a really interesting project, and Kazakhstan for us was a general region of interest and still remains to be a region of interest. I think why it was a really good fit was really team-based. They're a great team. They were really interested in partnering with BHP. They both came to the program really keen to kind of share with us and learn off us. Alex is a really great example of what BHP can actually learn from the program. I regularly refer to him as our sort of Sherpa through Kazakhstan. We took a lot of the team over to spend a week in country with them. They introduced us to the lay of the land, how mining is done, what the reforms to the mining code look like over the last 4 years. They introduced us to a bunch of our competitors. One of their team gave us some information about what BHP did in country way back when. So they're a great example of how they've got such an amazing regional understanding of Kazakhstan, both from, under the ground in the geology and the above ground dynamics. And whilst I hope we gave them a couple of nuggets of gold through Explore, we certainly learned a lot from that team. And it's a team that we really back, a team that we want to work with in the future.
Excellent. Good. And you're here for the 3 days, as you say. You've got people here you work with. So what's your sort of plan for the next few days? Just to meet people and
we've got some back-to-back meetings this afternoon and tomorrow, which is going to be really great. And then tomorrow afternoon, we've got the student networking session. BHP's got a table. And so I think we're hoping to find some real rock stars of future talent there.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, I really like the conversation. You're clearly very energetic. I can tell you sort of come from the tech industry in that Silicon Valley.
Not quite the usual mining shape, but I'm learning a lot. Which is
but
awesome.
I like this new approach, innovating, making mining sexy again. I was told by the organisers here that this year they've seen a 20% roughly increase in people attending.
Oh, great.
Mining companies and also investors as well, because of course that's a good sign. Because
I know, definitely.
The market's been a little bit tough for juniors, but maybe we're starting to see some of the
and it's a beautiful time of the year to be in London.
Indeed it is. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, lovely to meet you. Thanks so much.
BHP Explore. I'll let you go, and we'll talk to you in a bit. Well, that was Marley Palin from BHP Explore. In a few moments' time, we're going to be going down to the Cornish Pavilion to do a special feature with those guys. For the moment, let's just take a bit of a 10-minute break as we move to the Cornish Pavilion later on. Okay, and welcome back here to Resourcing Tomorrow here in London. So before we head to the Cornish Pavilion for that special feature for half an hour, I'm going to be talking to someone from the Cornwall Trade and Investment. And then we've got a bit of a roundtable discussion with 3 of the 6 Cornish companies that are here today. So we've got Cornish Metals, Cornish Tin, and I think Cornish Resources. And Dan Flynn is our independent investor, and Alan Green is going to be hosting that roundtable. But before we do that, we've got about 10 minutes before we have to do that. We'll just go for a little walk around and see what we can see, a bit of a tour generally of the venue here. So the Stopbox studio is behind us, all working very hard, bringing us this live stream over the course of the day. But if we head down here, it's lunchtime in a little bit, so I'm sure the food will be being served soon. But there are lots of little meeting rooms, private meetings going on here. With sort of VIPs or meetings that have been arranged by companies who want to have that sort of more intimate discussion with potential investors here at the show. I am told, that, by the way, that George Pirrie is here. I did want to get an interview with George Pirrie, of course, from the Ontario Mines Department. So we are talking to Minister Crawford and Darren Hazelwood in a bit, but Minister Pirrie, hopefully we can get as well. Nice view. Future Minerals Forum are there. They were here last year, of course, out of Saudi. But let's walk down the stairs and have a look. Indeed, lunch is being served. So, I mean, it is fairly busy, as you can probably see. There's quite a lot of people walking around here. So we'll just take a little bit of a tour. Of course, GovEx Uranium we spoke to last year. We might get an interview with them. Won't be today, but maybe tomorrow. We've spoken to them, I think, 3 years in a row now. So it'll be good to see how they're getting on. Future Minerals Forum are here, which is nice to see. Then we've got, here's the Ontario Ministry of Mines. Okay, and I can actually see Minister Crawford there having a meeting, and we're going to be talking to Minister Crawford later. I didn't actually know they had a stand, but that's quite a nice, large stand there, isn't it, of the Ontario Ministry of Mines. So we should be able to get a couple of good interviews with those guys later on today. But let's have a little walk down here and have a look who else we have. We've got Quebec Exploring, okay, so investing in Quebec. We've got Gold Diamonds Park here, jewelry manufacturing and processing. Okay, maybe not a mining company. And then, of course, there's these little booths here. We've got Conroy Gold here, who we'll be talking to. I think you already spoke to Conroy Gold, didn't we, this morning? Have we got Conroy Gold this afternoon? Yes, we've got Conroy Gold this afternoon, who we'll be talking to. Peloton Metals, Bunker Hill, Abcourt Mines, who we've spoken to a couple of years ago as well. Central Asia Metals, Oracle Resources Core. And then let's have a look down here, because interestingly, there's a few interesting things going on here. There's a whole. Oh, Darren, you're live on Stopbox. Thanks for photo bombing. Thanks for photo bombing. So this is Darren Hazelwood, and of course Nick O'Reilly from Panther Metals. You're live, so no swearing, no smoking, etc. Minister Crawford, I have just seen. So we're ready to speak to Minister Crawford at about 12, aren't we? Me
Fantastic.
And you. Looking forward to that.
Yep.
Quickly, how's the morning been?
Fantastic.
Good.
Yeah. Really
Lots of good meetings.
Yeah.
Good.
Got a busy day. Busy 3 days.
Busy 3 days.
We're really looking forward to it.
Good. Excellent. Ready for your pitch as well?
As ready as I'll ever be.
Okay. All right. Thank you both. I'll see you later.
Enjoy your day.
Thank you. There we go. Darren Hazelwood bombing the live stream, but we can expect no less from Mr. Hazelwood.
Are we still live?
Yes, we're completely live. We're live all day. This is live television, so this is how it goes, guys. So we've got women in mining are here. They've got a whole section here, so it'd be interesting to get them. I think maybe tomorrow. We haven't got time for them today, but that'll be interesting because they're new here for this year. And then we've got Quattro Metals here. Of course, the 2 guys there who we've interviewed before. So it'd be nice to get a chat with them. I think that's going to be more like tomorrow afternoon. So before we head for the Cornish Pavilion, let's just have a look at this car. So a Forze 8, I believe it's a hydrogen fuel cell car. The first race car fuel cell. Because the theme for Resourcing Tomorrow is all about, this year, it's about that green energy transition. And I think this car is really sort of a nice piece to look at, really. Of course, being hydrogen, being renewable. I don't know if we can talk to anyone from their stand, but this is probably one of the more interesting stands of the show. I mean, there's a simulator there. There's things that are spinning and moving here, which is nice. So, yeah, it'd be nice to talk to people. I don't know if anyone's available to talk to us. Are you able to talk to us?
Of course.
Yeah. Well, just briefly, we've got a couple of minutes. What are you guys all about? What are you doing here?
So we're a student team from the Netherlands in Delft.
Oh, in Delft. I live in The Hague. So I thought
Really close by.
you sounded Dutch as
Yes,
well.
Dutch accent.
Well, yeah. Nice to see you.
Yes,
So
yeah. So we're here with our hydrogen race car, which we built, design, and race as a student team, and we're in. We do that to show and promote the works of hydrogen, and in a cool project in a hydrogen race car.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what we do as a student team, and also to educate and the future engineers and marketeers for the next generation.
Is it dangerous, hydrogen?
Dangerous. No, so the tanks are very safe. It's been tested and it's been designed in a way that it's as safe as possible as it is. So it's all thought out and very complicated, as you can see, but it's everything's thought out and tested as well.
Good. So this is something you've built at the university. So it's a hydrogen fuel cell racing car, really.
Correct.
Does it go pretty fast?
It goes fast. So this is the Forze 8. And we're currently working on the Forze 9, which is our newest development. And it has double as much power as this one, which is like 108 horsepower, 105 horsepower.
Okay.
So it goes at 300 kilometers an hour at the full speed if everything's fixed in.
And is it just like a university project that's ongoing year after year after year? How does it work?
Yeah, so we're actually an independent group. So we started from the university, but now we're completely independent. And so each year we have a new team of around 48 students that work on this each year around a completely new team. And then they continue building on the project. So it's not a 1-year project. The Forze 9 has been working for 4 years now on it. So it's been quite a intensive and long project. But yeah.
And do you race it then in a competitive style?
So this one, it's raced in multiple races. It also became second in a race against other petrol cars, and hopefully we'll be racing in April with the Forze 8.
Okay, good. Where do you race?
In Holland.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the Netherlands. It's still Forze hydrogen racing is quite not as known yet, so it's not. We don't have a hydrogen class.
Sure.
So we race against other petrol cars, but only in the Netherlands.
Okay. Well, you'll have to let me know. I'll come back and get your details. Yeah. I can come and see you next time you're racing. But thank you wel en een fijne dag to you. Yeah. Enjoy your day. There we go. I got to practice a little bit of my Dutch there, which is not very much. The media companies are here as before. We've got US Gold Corps, who I'll be speaking to later as well. They were here last year. We've got an interview with them. But we are just now nicely on time. We can walk back to the Cornish Pavilion and we can do our interview with the Cornwall Trade and Investment, and then go on to the roundtable discussion with the companies that are attending. But yeah, I'll definitely have to make a point of going to see that car when it's racing over in wherever it is, in Delft or somewhere else in the Netherlands there. Seems very interesting. Okay, so here we are coming round Cornish Pavilion. Let's have a look at it. It's a big stand. It's about, I think, 2 or 3 normal size stands here. Maybe more, actually. Maybe 4 stands. Everyone's coming from Cornwall. Cornwall Mining Alliance, Cornish Lithium, Cornish Metals, Cornish Tin, Cornwall Resources, British Lithium, Tungsten West, and of course the Cornwall Trade and Investment. So this is, the Cornish lot, I suppose, that have come up all the way from deepest, darkest Cornwall. So I need to find the lady who I'm interviewing from the Cornwall Trade and Investment. This is where the round table is going to be happening here. Yes, here we are, Nicola. Hello, I found you. Yeah. So well, it's good to see you again. So, I mean, how many people have come up from Cornwall?
I think we estimate there's at least 30, but, when we bump into more, there's lots of students here from Camborne School of Mines. There's, lots of extended family from Team Cornwall around the event. So, which we know it's a popular event, and because mining's just so much part of Cornish culture. So, yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I love all your stuff. You've got your little, Cornwall flags here, the Kerno flags. I got my little pin badge you gave me yesterday. The fudge is all finished.
Well, we can give you some more fudge if you need some energy through the day.
Yeah, thank you. I might need it. So the Cornwall Trade and Investment, then, that's who you work for. Just tell us a little bit about that body. why it was set up and what your objective or your remit is really.
Yeah, of course, Cornwall's a very special place and we have some unique industry in terms of tourism and hospitality, but there's some game-changing industries in Cornwall that can really change the economy. And our job at Cornwall Trade and Investment is to shine a light on Cornwall, make sure that investors understand the opportunities, that businesses see the opportunities to expand Cornwall, and that our Cornish businesses get a fair share in terms of export opportunities and growth opportunities. So that's our remit, is to really shout about Cornwall and present the right window into the region.
And how long has it been set up for, the body?
We have been in place for quite a number of years. I've been working for Cornwall Trade and Investment for about 8 years. And really from the word go, we knew that mining was going to be such a major part of our kind of strategy in terms of what we want New Cornwall to look like. We're very happy with our tourism and everything else, but we need to build those important jobs and change the economy in Cornwall. So it's always been part of our makeup, and it's great. I was just saying to some of the guys here that last time I was at this event, it was 2019. And at that point, it was sort of little acorns of Cornish businesses and the mining exploration companies that we've got with us here. And now, we're here in Forze, and it's quite a nice contrast to see. So, very exciting.
It's really nice to see. And I mean, when you think about the other mining companies that are here, lots are listed in North America, for example, and on Australia. There's a few here from London. But when it comes to actually having operations in the United Kingdom, there's very few. I think probably this pavilion is maybe, I want to say, the only group of companies that have operations in the United Kingdom, of course, in Cornwall. And a vast history of mining in Cornwall as well, isn't there? Like going back decades.
Thousands of years, literally thousands of years. And actually some of the records being used by the exploration companies here date back to those times. So it's how do we reignite existing workings, how do we look for new opportunities in mining, and the heritage is there. The local public in Cornwall are over the moon to see mining come back, and actually what we see so much of is people that have travelled the world with mining from Cornwall and potentially have the chance to come home and work in the industry in the UK. So it's a really, really nice time, I think, for the industry.
Well, that's interesting what you say about the locals sort of keen to see the mining coming back, because, of course, they've got the history there, the legacy there, but mining is tarnished a little bit, isn't it, with sort of scarring the land, or we don't really need it. But we do need the commodities to come out of the ground. And I think now with ESG and all the governance that has to go in, you can't leave a scar on the land. You have to rehabilitate, and more often than not, the mine sites are left in a better situation than they were before it was exploited. But you really are seeing a lot of local support there. I'm just thinking in terms of not just the jobs it will create, obviously, but getting through regulations and things like that when it comes to getting operations going.
Definitely, and the local council is extremely ambitious in its net zero aims. We've pledged to be net zero by 2030. There's no way that we would be looking at a mining industry in Cornwall unless it was being done in a responsible way, looking at those ESG. And of course, our landscape is very important to us from a the beauty of Cornwall is incredibly precious. So we need to protect that by all means. But exactly as you say, we've now got the opportunity to go back into old mine workings and perhaps leave them in a better place, rework old mining areas into new residential areas in the future, all sorts of things that are being looked at from a master plan point of view, but with that in mind of balancing that economic impact with the environmental and social impacts as well. So it's all about balance, isn't it?
Yeah. And do you get involved in sort of education as well, or obviously you're promoting trade and investment? So when it comes to changing attitude to people on the ground who perhaps are anti-mining, or indeed encouraging, because I know there are people here from Camborne School of Mines as well, sort of encouraging young people that there's a career here in mining for them in Cornwall.
Absolutely. I think, exactly as you say, we're partnering here today with Camborne School of Mines, and they have done a lot of work in terms of sector development. It's all part of the puzzle, isn't it? There's no point creating these job opportunities if you can't fill them. So it's encouraging that next generation. We work closely, but we're not directly involved with that. But of course, if we were to attract new business to Cornwall and they couldn't recruit anyone, then we would have an issue on our hands. But I think, again, because of that heritage and that legacy within old families in Cornwall where they know that, you know, in the past their generations have worked in mining. When kids come home and say, oh, I might be interested, we heard about mining today at school, and I might go and look at what Camborne School of Mines has got to offer. They're pushing on an open door, because to local families, that's a brilliant career option. So yeah.
That is good, and of course, my father is Cornish, and I think he did indeed work, in one of the exploration projects down there. When in his younger years, with it's the English Chanda clay, isn't it? Yeah, that's very active down there. But yeah, you see it all the time, don't you? If you want to go and see mine workings, museums on mines as well, it's all there in Cornwall. Of course, the diaspora network as well is something you're very much involved with. Just tell us a little bit about that.
We're really passionate about this. Every time we go to any event, not just in mining, we always bump into people that have got a connection to Cornwall. Usually their family was from Cornwall, and they're interested to hear about what Cornwall's got going on. And we know that in Scotland and Ireland that they've done a huge amount over the years to really engage that diaspora network and look for ways in which those people that are now no longer located in their sort of heritage place want to still have some sort of impact and help nurture businesses, perhaps provide some of their time and coaching, or invest in projects that are in that place. And so we're looking now to try and provide that conduit. So yeah, part of our aim is, while we're here, is to engage with as many Cornish folk as we can that might be interested. Light touch at this stage, but we'll grow and hopefully become something really powerful going forward.
But it's about sort of saying, hey, look, we're Cornwall, we're not just about tourism. We have a big mining industry as well. If you're interested, if you've got Cornish heritage, thinking about investing or anything really that they can help encourage that mining industry.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to have some sort of greater connection to Cornwall and find out more about what's going on, find out ways of engaging more closely, even from a very long distance. I was just speaking to someone before who was saying, oh yeah, I've flown over here from Perth, from Australia, and my boss is Cornish. And so she's taken a card away with her just to let him know that perhaps he might want to keep an eye on what's going on. So yeah, let's see where that leads. But we're quite excited. It could be a really promising thing.
No, it's really good. It's really good. Yeah, and like I say, I was talking to people from the Toronto Stock Exchange and the London Stock Exchange, and I think the North American investors sort of get mining a bit more because it's just there. It's generational, like in their culture there. Whereas London and the UK perhaps don't have that. But Cornwall maybe could be the centre of mining in the UK. I don't know. I mean, you've got plenty of opportunities, haven't you?
I would argue that it always has been, and I think this is where we're always keen to shout about the exploration that's happening, the existing mining that's happening in terms of the China clay industry, because that's never stopped, and then also the hundreds of supply chain companies that have always maintained a base in Cornwall, but perhaps contracted to companies all around the world. They are all still there as well. So actually, the mining sector has never really gone away. And is very much welcome to grow.
Good. So just finally, what would you say to, perhaps companies who are considering looking in Cornwall for projects, but indeed, as I say, young people who perhaps are entering the jobs market, not sure what to do in Cornwall? What would you say to those people when it comes to sort of making Cornwall perhaps the hub in the UK for mining and exploration?
Well, as someone that lives in Cornwall and chose to live in Cornwall, I can't recommend it enough as a place. That's the first and foremost. People make personal decisions, don't they? And so being in Cornwall is a great place to be. But second to that, obviously, is having great career opportunities, great opportunities to grow businesses. So when all of that is in the mix, I can't really understand why we wouldn't have a really glowing future in Cornwall. Yeah. So if anybody is interested in expanding their business, engaging with some of our exploration companies and activities that are on, so they'll see their market potential in Cornwall, then please get in touch with us. And what we do at Cornwall Trade Investment is tend to make the right conversations happen. So we Cornwall's a great collaborative place. So we'll find the right people to chat to, and hopefully see some expanded businesses in Cornwall. And
Thank you very much for your time, Nicola, from the Cornwall Trade and Investment. And I want to going to talk to three of the mining companies that are here today. So we've got Alan Green and Dan Flint are going to host the round table. So I'm going to hand you the mic.
Thank you.
And Dan needs a mic as well.
Okay.
And then
We've not got our guest yet, Mark. That's the only problem.
Oh, you don't have the guests. What guests are you expecting, Alan? This is
We're expecting George, right? We're expecting Sally Walker.
okay. Well, we can go and find them. Do we have the people from? What is it? Cornish Tin, Cornish Lithium, and Cornish Resources. Yeah. Who do we need? Do you know who they are?
Sally Norcross Web.
We'll get the people ready in a moment.
Okay.
This is Dan.
Yeah.
Dan's been doing a couple of research talks pieces for us on Stockbox recently, so it's the first time we're meeting in person. Dan's our independent investor here at the show today. So Alan's going to host the sort of round table with three of the companies, and Dan's going to interject with sophisticated investor questions.
Sophisticated.
Such a sophisticated young man. Yeah, indeed. So yeah, we just need to get the people assembled, and hopefully we can do it. We've got about 15 minutes probably, then we've got Minister Crawford and Darren Hazelwood. But yeah, how do you feel the event's gone so far, Dan? It's your second time here, is it?
Yeah, it's my second time. It seems to be going really well. It's really picking up now. There's a good variety of companies. Yeah, it's a bit of a buzz around the place.
Yeah, it is quite busy, isn't it? It is quite busy. No, it's okay. It's okay. We're going to be talking in a minute, I think. Yeah. Which company are you from?
Cornish Tin.
Cornish Tin. Okay, and tin doing very well recently, I think, the tin price.
Certainly is, yes. It's a great market.
A good market, yeah. Do we have our guests, Alan, or we have Sally from Cornish Tin, and who else do we need?
We need Forze and George Howe from Cornish.
Do we have them available? Do we know? They're not here. Okay, it'd be a small little round table discussion then with.
So we'll just have a table.
Just have one table, yeah, sure. Well, I can hand over to you, Alan, and then if other people join the round table. So yeah, you're live on Stockbox.
Thank you.
No swearing.
Well, good morning, everyone. We are due to undertake a roundtable interview, and I'm here with Sally Norcross Webb, and Sally is the Chief Executive and founder of Cornish Tin. And we're just getting organised. I'm going to talk to her in 2 seconds. Right.
Thank you.
So I'll come to this side. So Sally, I'll talk to you from your left, if that's okay.
Yeah, fine.
There we are.
I like you. Keeping to detail.
Excellent. Okay. Well, Sally, it's nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you too.
So we're live on Stockbox now, going out to viewers and mining analysts and lots of people who follow Stockbox. So could you, now I know your flagship project is the Great Wheelvore group of projects, which are 26 mining projects near to Redruth. Can you just give us a bit of background to the company, which of course you founded?
Yes. Well, the Great Wheelvore was known in its day as the richest tin mine in the world. It closed in the 1870s, not through any lack of resource, but because there was a long-running mineral rights dispute, which is now resolved. So I saw this as a great opportunity. It had sort of lain asleep for 150 years, but managed to put the mineral rights package together, and we started drilling in 2022. So we've drilled about 9,300 metres, and we've discovered some very important new tin discoveries, 28 new tin targets, peaking at 6.28% tin, which is very high, and a new lithium field on the eastern flanks of the Tregoning granite, which we're very enthusiastically developing as well. So we're progressing our tin and our lithium assets in parallel.
Excellent. Well, we of course spoke to Nicola just now from the Cornish Mining Alliance, and we heard that, of course, as you fly into Cornwall, you can see all the mining works below you. And of course, in Redruth, close to where you are, there are many mining companies with different operations. Do you work closely with your neighbours?
We are, I think, a very collaborative group. We talk to each other regularly. It's in our interests that we all succeed. Even if we all are going flat out when we get to production, there's still extra demand in the UK, and then we can always export. So it's a real success story, and it's going to bring a lot of jobs to Cornwall. I mean, 3,000 or 4,000 jobs between all of us, which is going to have a major effect in terms of driving the regional economy and contributing to the UK economy at large as well.
Of course, and there are some government ministers here today, some members of Parliament. So, are you receiving the support you would expect to receive or want to receive from both local government and the new Labour government?
Yes, we are, and I have to say that tin and lithium have not been mentioned in the Houses of Parliament so much in living memory as under the new Labour government. So they're really putting their weight behind this, and our local Cornwall Planning Authority, Cornwall Council, is absolutely excellent, very knowledgeable. And of course, with the new fast-track planning process for projects of national significance, which I'm sure we will all be, there's a fast-track planning process to get to production that much quicker. So, yeah, it's a good time to be developing a minerals project in Cornwall.
That's very good to hear. So, just looking forward, what can you give investors perhaps a flavour of what they can expect from Cornish Tin in the coming weeks and months?
Well, we're just embarking on a fundraise of £3 million, and we're going to advance our tin and lithium discoveries next year. We're about to produce our first JORC exploration target report on our lithium fields. We're projecting revenue generation on our lithium assets by 2030 and on the tin by 2032. A little bit longer on the tin because it's a different geological formation. You have to find the individual lodes, but the lithium field is just homogeneous for about 3.7 kilometres north to south and over 1.2 kilometres east to west. So it's big. It's going to compete with the very biggest in Europe in project terms.
That's very exciting here indeed. I'm going to pass you across to my colleague Dan. Do you have any questions for Sally in regard to the Cornish Tin projects in Redruth?
Yeah, nice to meet you, Sally. Yeah, can you tell me a little bit more about Cornwall as a sort of jurisdiction for operating in? What's the permitting like, and what's the support like from the local authorities?
Well, it's a very good jurisdiction to be exploring in. It's a little known fact that there are a lot of areas in Cornwall that are actually safeguarded under the mineral safeguarding policy imposed by the Cornwall Council, so that that's to safeguard the actual minerals so that they're not sterilised from being developed by surface development, which is a little known thing but very helpful. Then we have our new fast-track planning process, which is going to be great. In terms of infrastructure, this is really a first-tier jurisdiction. You've got access to the third deepest harbour in the world, namely Falmouth. Got very good road connections, and really there's nothing to stop us, I think, really becoming a driving force of growth for the UK now.
Excellent, that all sounds great. And on a more national level, what's the support like for critical mineral and strategic mineral projects at the moment?
Well, the UK government has issued its critical minerals policy, which is very helpful. Both tin and lithium have just been confirmed as critical minerals under the BGS process. And yeah, I think both central and local government are well behind this.
Yeah, excellent. And can you tell me a little bit about demand for end products that comes from projects in the UK specifically? Is there a premium attached to that among UK manufacturers over, say, an equivalent project in another jurisdiction, another strong jurisdiction?
Well, there's an interesting point here. We've been approached already by some potential end customers, and they are very excited about having a domestic supply on their doorstep. And one of the things they cite is that downstream, they are increasingly subject to having to explain the source of the minerals that they use. And it doesn't stack up at the moment because China has a stranglehold on refining. Tin, for example, comes from Indonesia, Myanmar, countries where there is severe geopolitical risk. So it's very hard to meet targets in terms of sourcing these materials unless we have a domestic supply. And of course, with tin as well as lithium, there's a big military application. Everything we use, the quantum internet, which is being developed, every mobile, every computer, every car, whether it's combustion, lithium, hydrogen, they all need increasing amounts of tin because everything with an electronic device in it, or many devices in it, they all have to have tin in them. It's absolutely irreplaceable.
Excellent, yeah, and I should imagine that's going to have a positive impact on prices from here, isn't it?
We think so, and I think the consensus is that tin and lithium will be in deficit by the end of this decade, thereabouts, with the inevitable increases in price. So Cornish tin is very well placed, we hope and think, because we can ride that wave. It's all about the timing to make sure that we are coming into production at just exactly the right time for maximising our shareholder value.
Excellent, thank you very much, and I'm going to pass us back to Alan here.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, and thank you, Sally. That was really interesting. Thank you. Well, I'm talking now to Rowan Thorne, who is the geologist working at the Cornwall Resources Redmoor project, which is within the historically important Tamar Valley mining district, which is in eastern Cornwall, part of that triangle we were talking about earlier. So, Rowan, welcome to Resourcing Tomorrow. How are you finding the show so far?
Thank you, Alan. Thank you for having me and speaking to me. I think already on the first day and the first morning, it seems to be a very vibrant conference this year, and especially being here and having a Cornwall Pavilion with all 6 Cornish companies here. It's really highlighting the potential that the Southwest has with regards to the resource industry. And I think having obviously 6 companies covering many different commodities as well really does showcase the potential investment potential down in the Southwest.
Of course. So could you give us a brief overview of the Redmoor project and the work you're doing there at the moment?
Yeah, no problem. So the Redmoor project itself is based in East Cornwall in Callybray. So it's an 11.7 million tonne JORC compliant resource, 1.17% tin equivalent, but it's a tungsten deposit essentially. So it's tungsten, tin and copper, so it's polymetallic in nature. Sheeted vein complex system on the flank of a granite. And right now we're redeveloping that project, looking reviewing our historical drill core. We've just sent out another batch of drill core to Ireland last week before I come here, and we have plans in the pipeline. I'm drawing up numerous plans to do more exploration drilling, and I think what's important about our deposit is it's still underexplored. It's still open to the west, to the south, and at depth. So what I'm aiming to do in the next 12 months is continue our relogging program and look at having an MRE update, that kind of thing, reevaluating during second pass logging and seeing what else we have in the deposit itself.
Understand. Can you tell us something about the history of the Redmoor project as well? Because talking to Sally just now about Cornish Tin, there's so much history in that area. And as you fly into Cornwall, of course, you can see the workings down below you. So tell us something about the history of the Redmoor project and the Tamar Valley area.
So in East Cornwall around Redmoor, and obviously the more extensive Tamar Valley mining district, it's got some very famous historical mines such as the Prince of Wales mine there. And the Redmoor project itself, the mine, essentially closed production in the 1920s, I believe. And that was historically mined for tin and copper, the primary east-west lodes. There was minor exploitation for lead, zinc, silver in the north-south cross-course systems, but obviously, drop in commodity prices, so on and so forth. And the technicalities around mining deeper restricted what was exploited there. So again, there was some exploration in the 1980s, some historical drilling around the area that identified more tin resources, copper resources. And again, that was confined by the technical abilities of the time. These drill holes are about 300 meter downhole length, which is still very shallow by modern standards. Our drill program, we've drilled up to 700 meters below this historical workings and these historically known lodes. And that's where the discovery of the sheeted vein system came in. So really what we're doing is we're building on historical work, but applying novel modern exploration technologies and methodologies to really understand the potential of the deposit itself going into the modern era.
Excellent. So there are several government members of Parliament here today from Cornwall. How have you found when you've applied for exploitation permitting, extending the licenses? What sort of levels of support have you found that you've received from the local MPs?
So throughout our time operating in Callington and Kelly Bray, we've always had support from MPs of different political persuasions. More importantly, again, we have a lot of strong support from local parish councils. So really our support comes from the ground up as well as top down. Obviously, there's a couple of new MPs in the Southwest at the moment, and to be honest, they've hit the ground running. They're very hands-on, very involved, and very understanding of the industry itself and the heritage around the mining industry in Cornwall. And furthermore, the importance going forward in looking at the critical mineral supply chain for the UK. They see it as not just an opportunity, but a necessity with regards to supply chain security and so on. So I was at the CMA annual conference yesterday, and they stuck around most of the day talking with other companies, us, Cornish Lithium, and they're very engaged and very enthused to see projects come online in the Southwest. And to say that we have full support is an understatement. We're having support. You look at the government now with their new industrial strategy. They understand the importance of critical minerals and the role that Cornwall can play in meeting that demand going forward. And obviously how we work with the local communities, again, with the parish councils. They're very supportive and welcoming of what we're doing. And they also see it as part of their heritage. And to reinvigorate that heritage, again, they're very much on board with us. So it's very encouraging as a company that you have that support from MPs, local authorities and local councillors.
Of course. And you have Camborne School of Mines down the road, of course, which has produced a succession of geologists, many of whom are here today. How are you seeing opportunities for employment amongst the local community? Are you seeing a desire from youngsters to come into the mining industry in your region?
As a graduate from Camborne School of Mines, I've gone full circle from Cornwall.
That's why I asked.
So I've gone full circle around the world and ended up back in Cornwall. There is a great appetite for projects to develop in Cornwall. The local communities obviously see it as an opportunity for highly skilled jobs. And obviously these skill sets, developed within the mining industry are transferable. Young people coming into the industry don't just develop the skills to work in Cornwall, they can go abroad and so on and so forth. Obviously our focus right now is developing skills locally to keep them local, which has always been an issue. I mean, I studied at Camborne and I went straight to Finland a week later to work. What we want to do is develop a skill set in Cornwall from the School of Mines and local colleges that can feed into the current industry as it's developing, rather than having to go around the world finding this skill set. We have world-class institutions here in the UK that really we're developing that skill set, but we're exporting it. I mean, one of our greatest exports as a country is our intellectual property, our academia. We need to keep it in the UK right now to develop our own industry. But working with Camborne School of Mines, we've taken on numerous master's students. I'm currently supervising 3 PhDs. So we're very much engaged with academia and using them in collaboration with us to develop our understanding of the mineral potential of the Southwest, but also developing the skills that we need to develop the whole industry.
Rowan, that's fascinating insight. So we don't have too long left now, but could you just perhaps give investors a flavour of what's coming up now for the Redmoor project, what the next steps are? Just give us some idea of the roadmap going forward.
So, well, obviously, as I've mentioned, we're actively reviewing our historical drill core with an aim of understanding the geology of the deposit better. Potentially, we put out an RNS, I think, back in June that we had more mineralization that was unsampled. And my aim as a geologist is to really tie up our understanding of the geological aspects of the deposit to reduce risk. It's easier to plan a mine when you understand your geology better, right? So that's one aspect that I'm looking at. And obviously with our new Tamar Valley license, we're looking at opportunities to identify new deposits. We're doing sampling in a region of the county that has really not had any novel exploration undertaken on it since the 80s, and even if you call the 80s novel exploration. So we're looking at not just developing the Redmore project, but a pipeline of projects and opportunities. And with the backing of the local communities, the government, and so on, I think it gives us a very strong position right now looking and moving forward.
Rowan Thorne from Cornwall Resources, thank you for that insight. Fascinating. Okay. Right, so let's go over to Dan. Dan is talking with Marisha Linden at Tungsten West. Over to you, Dan.
That's right. Thanks, Alan. Hi. So, how are you enjoying the event so far?
Yeah, it's really good, and it's nice to have everyone here from all the Cornwall mining companies together. Yeah.
Of course.
So, can you tell me a little bit about what the company does and your projects and how they're advancing?
So we are a tin and tungsten mine, and we're in South Devon, so just across the Cornish border. So we were operational under a previous company, and this was probably about 10 years ago now. And so it's basically just working on the project to sort of get ourselves back to being an operation.
Excellent. So what are some of the key next steps that are coming over the next, say, 12 months?
So we have received all of our environmental permits now. So we're re-looking at doing our feasibility study. So we're just doing that work at the moment. And then we'll go out to our investors and then start the build.
Excellent. So can you tell me a little bit more about the tungsten market in general? What's driving demand? What's restricting supply?
Yeah, so we're actually the second largest resource of tungsten in the world outside of China. So that's really important. As countries don't really want to be working with China, and they also have stopped producing and giving to other countries. So it's important to have that resource locally.
Excellent. And can you tell me a bit about the operating jurisdiction? So you're just outside Cornwall, that's right. And is there a lot of support for projects there?
Yeah. So our mine, when we're in operation, we'll provide 250 jobs just internally, and then that's not including the rest of the supply chain, which is massive for such a small place like our closest city is Plymouth. The job market there is not always the best. There's limited companies that work there, so to be able to provide jobs in so many in a local area is quite important.
Definitely. And in terms of the demand for the tungsten you're ultimately producing, have you already made any headway there? Has there been a lot of interest? And has there been a sort of bias towards UK manufacturers? Are you seeing demand in particular from them?
We've had interest from quite a few people locally and internationally. We have not really at that stage yet because we're not in operation of deciding, what's going to happen to it. But
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Alan. Do you have any other additional questions?
Well, just ready to come in. Thank you for that, Dan. Just ready to come in. I'm interested to find out what level of support you're getting from local MPs, and of course we have spoken to several today. So I just wanted to understand the level of support you were receiving from local government.
Yeah, so we have all of our environmental permits now. That was something we struggled with in the past when we were trying to get the support from local MPs. But we're excited to see what the new government brings to the table and what they can offer us in support, really.
Super. And just really on that note, of course, you've got that there are so many projects dotted around that part of Cornwall. Are you sort of finding that you're overlapping with neighbours and working with neighbouring companies? Is there a lot of integration and a lot of support from other operators there?
So where we are based, basically on the same road, we've got Imerys, they're China Clay.
Yep.
And we've kind of worked out that they might be using special things at one time that we don't have, and we can kind of exchange together and work together to sort of help each other out really, which is really great. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, already from talking with several companies, and I think Dan's found the same. You know, that there seems to be a lot of mutual support between companies, and you don't sense the companies are working alone. They're very much it's very much a team opportunity.
Yeah.
Want to know as well. We saw when we spoke to Cornish Lithium last year, they just received a big block of funding, including a 25 million. Investment from the UK Infrastructure Bank. What does the funding future look like for Tungsten West?
So we're just completing our feasibility at the moment, and then we will go out to market for investing. But yeah, we haven't really decided what that looks like yet. So,
okay,
yeah.
I know you can't talk about stuff before it happens, but I'm just interested to know just if that money's being spread around, and it certainly seems that to this point that is the case. But I just wanted to know your perspective on it.
Great. So everything's moving ahead nicely then. Strong macro conditions, and see where we go from here. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay. Right. Well, Mark, it's back to you, and thank you all.
Well, hello and welcome back onto the balcony here. Ryan Mee, CEO of Fulcrum Metals, is joining me. We're hoping any minute now to get Minister George Pirrie. His secretary is trying to grab him from a panel that is running over, and we could do a bit of a joint interview. So it'd be great to have a chat with Minister Pirrie. But while we're waiting for Minister Pirrie, I mean, I think you saw him this morning, didn't you?
Yeah, he dropped by the booth earlier, along with his assistants. Obviously, Ontario put some news out just a week ago about the new mineral recovery permit process and framework. It's something we have been aware of because we've been discussing this with the Ministry of Mines over the last 12 months.
Okay.
But it's a very welcome development. The Mines Department have an interest in what we are doing because we're taking legacy assets and we're trying to transform them into assets through reprocessing the tailings. George called by through earlier, asked how everything's going and how he can help us. And it's obviously very pleasing to have that kind of support behind us.
Absolutely. So what's that? The Materials Reprocessing Act?
Mineral Recovery Processing.
Mineral Recovery Processing. What is that all about then? I've missed that news.
Yeah, so what it is, they're trying to, they are putting in place from the 1st of July a fast-track process whereby you can get permits for recovering or reprocessing tailings, which obviously the tailings are at surface.
Specifically for tailings then?
Yes, mineral recovery. So obviously this can really assist us with what we're doing at Fulcrum, turning mine waste into gold. So we're just delighted that the government recognised the opportunity.
What do you think's driven that sort of act?
Well, it might something that might have there's $10 billion worth of precious metals in mine waste in Canada, so it's a huge lost resource. And this doesn't mean you don't need to build any new mines, so there's a win-win there. The tailings, they're historic. It contains heavy metals, pollutes the environment.
Yeah.
So, you've got on one hand, you've got already mined minerals at surface. It's causing an environmental issue. So, to my mind, the most logical thing is to help assist with or expedite the recovery or the ability to recover those minerals out of those tailings and help clean up the environment.
It's very encouraging that act has been passed, and that really shows that the government are really getting behind this tailings waste. I know we've talked a lot about how much of a problem that is. We've seen the scale of it from your videos out on site. They're driving in the
and they are great videos, Mark.
They are good videos. Definitely a bit of a gold hunter vibe going on. Tell me a little bit about your stand is just there. I think we can just about see it. I think.
Yes.
Aidan's on point.
Aidan's just currently talking to an equity fund group. It's showing some interest this morning.
Okay.
We already had a pretty stacked out day with meetings, but there's myself and Aidan, and Mitch will be joining us shortly. So
good.
It helps facilitate additional meetings, but we've had a hugely positive morning so far.
So you've had a full morning of meetings?
Yes.
Yeah, and the afternoon's looking busy as well?
Yeah, we're stacked through till 4:30. So it's we're busy all the way through today.
Good. Well, I've just heard Minister Piri is otherwise engaged. He's a very busy man.
He is.
But you caught him earlier. We will get him before the day's out. I'm sort of quietly confident we'll get him.
Well, he did come and find me earlier, so I let him off on that front. But,
I was talking to his secretary, but I know they are very busy doing what they need to do. They are.
Oh, they are, yeah.
Very popular people.
Yeah, they're very active. They're trying to strengthen those UK-Canadian connections too.
Yeah.
Obviously, Fulcrum UK listed Canadian operations, so it's all good news for us.
Good.
All good news.
Well, Ryan, thank you very much. I'll let you get back, and hopefully we can catch up later.
Absolutely. Don't forget, I'm at 2:20 on
with the
doing the presentation.
So that's so you're going to get some lunch and then go and do your presentation. Yeah, well, we'll see you from here. Yeah. We'll be watching. I'll grab your microphone. Thank you very much, Ryan.
Cheers, Mark.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we can't get Minister Piri, no, but we hopefully still can get Minister Crawford. Should be the case, although we haven't heard. But I can see the Ontario stand down there, and they were having quite important meetings. So they are aware, and he said 1:15, I believe, that they could be here 12:15. I don't know, maybe we can get in touch with him and see if we can get up. But I'm hopeful he comes because we've got Darren Hazelwood waiting in the wings. So Darren, do you want to come on? We can have a chat before Minister Crawford arrives. Just come in, just walk in. Here he is. He seems shy now. You weren't shy early when you photobombed us. How are you?
I'm very well. You?
Yeah, good, thank you. Good. How's your morning been?
It's been good. We actually had an opportunity to introduce Nick, chairman, to a couple of very, very relevant people.
Okay.
In our network in Toronto, because I deal a lot with the Toronto stuff, so that's been really useful. We're on top of that. We've had another couple of interesting meetings. Look, all these meetings are private, and what you're covering, but we're at a really interesting stage of development in the business, and our story naturally is going to create interest.
Yeah, I know you said last year that this is one of the better events.
It's the best.
You say it's the best? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. People sort of get what you're talking about.
It's an event for professionals. The level of conversation you're having is with professionals, and that's nothing against any other event. But for a company that's focused on the next stage of growth, the next stage of development, these are exactly the people that you need to be talking to. You need to be getting either in your network or actually just reinforcing them within your network. Because you meet people at these events, you meet them at PDAC, and you don't generally see them in between at times. And that's exactly what this is about. And it makes such a difference to the company because people remember certain elements of it, and you're able to build on that, and you can show them the progress. And it's definitely benefited us massively.
Do you think it's busier than it was last year, or can you remember what it was like last year?
I think it's about on a par.
On par?
Yeah.
About the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's on a par.
Well, I was told that it's about 20% up on both companies and investors here.
The only thing is, you've got to remember, I'm a little bit like a pigeon in his coop.
Right.
So I've spent the entire morning in my booth going one meeting to another meeting to another meeting. And for those that don't understand how it works here, you have a booth and you have meetings pre-arranged on half-hour schedules.
And you've been going back
and
to back.
And every person comes to our booth and we've just gone dun 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 dun. So unfortunately, I haven't even had a chance to wander around yet. Apart from going to grab a coffee when I fortunately bumped into you earlier. And that was literally the only time I've managed to get out of my coop. And this being the next opportunity.
Yeah, okay. Well, we are still trying to get hold of Minister Crawford. Because I know he comes from the capital markets. He's got more of a capital markets background, whereas Minister Piri, I wanted to talk to Ryan about, is obviously more on perhaps the sort of the mine.
Oh, George is great. I was talking to George earlier.
Yeah,
we managed to get 20 minutes to have a conversation about something that's going on where we're looking to tie the Canadian and the UK government. And George was very helpful as ever. And he comes from the industry, understands the industry, understands the challenges.
Okay.
And to be fair, Canada's really well represented here.
Yeah. Okay. What here? Yeah. Well, they've got a huge stand, haven't they?
Yes.
Ontario Minister of Mines.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, they've got a whole presence here, and I can see Minister Crawford.
Ah.
We're in luck, Darren. I need a microphone, please. We're in luck. Minister Crawford now. I just need to. There he is over there. Hi, guys. You can come in if you like. Yeah, if you're ready. No, you can stay. I'll introduce you. Yeah, Minister Crawford. Hello, Mark Fairbairn from Stopbox. This is Darren Hazelwood from Panther Metals. So if you're okay to have a bit of a chat, the camera's there. I'll tell you, I'll stand in the middle.
You tell me where to stand.
And we can stand. This is a little bit cosy,
Yeah,
but
sure.
you know, it's all right. But first of all, I'd just like to get an introduction, and I think perhaps for Darren's sake as well, just your job role and what you do for the ministry.
Yeah, so my name's Stephen Crawford. I'm a member of Provincial Parliament for Oakville and Associate Minister of Mines for Ontario.
Okay. And I've seen you've been very busy. What sort of conversations have you been having here today?
Well, it's been very busy. Yesterday I was at the Critical Minerals. Today I'm here, and we're seeing a lot of interest in what's happening in Ontario. People are asking questions. What's happening? What's going on in Ontario? We're seeing, a renaissance in mining in Ontario, and with our investments in the EV sector and whatnot, it's really snowballing.
Okay, good. Well, Darren Hazelwood, the CEO of Panther Metals, is active in Ontario, and he's regularly talking to the London investors through Stopbox here. Darren, you're seeing a lot of interest, aren't you, on the ground over there at the moment?
Yeah, we've seen it develop massively. We were probably one of the first movers in Ontario, going back 6 years ago now when we took on our first asset. We've remained in Ontario, and we're focused in north of Thunder Bay for Stephen's benefit, and just north of the Hemlo mine, between Hemlo and the Gecko mine, based in Manitouwadge. We've got some really interesting developments, but Ontario is genuinely a great place as an explorer to look.
Well, it's the heart of mining, isn't it?
It is. It's mineral rich. People understand the sector. They've got numerous mines either in development, such as Marathon. You've got the Equinox mine that's come online this year. They're ramping up. And you've, of course, got the historic mines like Hemlo. What's that, 23 million ounces ongoing? And it has everything that an explorer requires. And as a compliment to Stephen and the Ontario government, the support network since we've been there over the last 4, 5, 6 years, I've just seen that increase. And I think that's representative here. You go and see the stands that are here from the Ontario Mining Department. What a difference that is. I've managed to catch up with some of the team down there. And I'd encourage everyone to keep watching Ontario, because even though it's got mines, it's got history running over 150 years of mining, there are a lot of discoveries still to be made in that province.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, you are absolutely right on, and I'm glad to hear the positive words you're saying about what our government has done. But, you're right. We have the right environment, geologically speaking, right? We've got a lot of different commodities, everything from gold to lithium, graphite, nickel, copper, cobalt. So we have a really wide array of minerals, and there is a lot of exploration. But at the end of the day, the government of Ontario needs to set the environment for people to actually want to go there and explore and be able to develop. And we've put through legislation just recently in 2022, the Building Mines Faster Act, which is speeding up the process, because we know that mines were taking too long to come online. So we're very focused on making sure that we can get them up and running quicker. And as I say, with all the investments, we've had $45 billion Canadian invested into the EV auto sector, which is the #1 jurisdiction in the world, according to Bloomberg, Ontario. And 6 years ago, we weren't even on that chart. It was China #1. We've overtaken them. So we're getting the EV investments. We've got the critical minerals. So we want to be the one-stop solution from, getting the minerals out of the ground, processing, which we need to work a little bit more on, and then the manufacturing of the EVs. We're also seeing a tremendous interest. We've been down to Washington several times, and with either administration, we obviously know we'll have President Trump as the president in January, but either way it went, we weren't too concerned from our point of view in terms of critical minerals, because either the Democrats or the Republicans very focused on national security. They need the critical minerals in Ontario. So either way, so we'll work with the new administration. We know they've already been in touch with us. They want to talk to us. We have the minerals.
Okay. And of course, you're with the Ontario Ministry of
Right.
Mines Department. Can you speak on a federal level what the attitude is from a federal level in terms of, because you've mentioned there about mining and processing and actually
Yeah.
being a full onshore solution, effectively not relying on third parties. How high up the agenda is this at a government level?
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously it's very high at the provincial level, and as you know, resources in Canada are basically from the province. Having said that, the federal government has been cooperative as well, and they understand the issues, they understand the concerns. We've worked collaboratively with the federal government in attracting the EV investments into Ontario, particularly. So they've been on the same page with that respect. So we're happy about that.
Okay, good. And I understand that you have a bit of a background in the capital markets. So if you can, but you understand how they work and what they need and attracting investment. Darren is very in tune with what's going on in the markets as well, not just of course on the ground. So I mean, what are you seeing? Because I think from a certainly a London point of view, maybe Darren will corroborate this. Is this year's been a little bit tough, certainly on the London markets. Maybe we're seeing the bottom now. The elections are out the way. Some more certainty coming along. But what are you seeing? I mean, could you comment on this year and perhaps how you might see things going throughout the next sort of 2, 3, 4 years?
Yeah, I've seen it all in my career. I was on Bay Street in Toronto for over 20 years. I helped build 2 investment companies. I worked most recently I was a partner with Kevin O'Leary. I'm not sure if that name rings a bell here in England, but he's on the Shark Tank in the United States on CNBC. He's Mr. Wonderful, a great guy, a good friend of mine. So I worked very closely with him as well with the O'Leary funds, and I've seen it all. I think right now for commodities, there's obviously some like gold that are doing super well right now. That's great. There's some that aren't doing so well. We see, for example, in our view, what China's doing in Indonesia with nickel. They're bringing on a lot of nickel to the market, probably trying to suppress the price.
Okay.
And they're destroying the environment, throwing the tailings in the ocean at the same time. What do we have in Ontario? We've got clean nickel and an abundance of it. And the U.S. market needs that. So at the end of the day, I'm pretty confident. You know, all these cycles have up and down periods, but I very much am of the belief that we will have a long bull cycle for commodities in general. That's a general comment, but I think we're going to be in for a good 10, 20 year ride to the upside. There's going to be bumps along the way, but we're excited. And we think Ontario is a good place to be then because we've got the commodities. And as you're probably aware, Toronto is the global mining financial hub.
Yeah.
So we want to continue to maintain that pace. And I'm actively engaged on that as well.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear your thoughts there because our investors will be pleased to hear that there's some sort of bullish sentiment on the horizon. Darren, what do you feel about that?
The industry has reached a point of no return, actually, where it's going to become so obvious about the risks to the global supply chain over the next probably 12 months, because the supply chain is at major risk of fracturing, but because of the lack of investment in exploration. There is, without doubt, a huge problem with discoveries, and the only way you make these discoveries is by putting the drill in the ground. And we've got to encourage explorers to do that. And as Stephen's already alluded to, that the governments are aware and are forward thinking enough now, because they see the more data than we would as a junior explorer, that they have problems that are building up. And there is definitely going to be a change in terms of the East-West split. Okay, you've got the BRICS on one side, and then you've got what we would call the West on the other. And the Western economies are probably going to have to supply themselves going forward within a few years. And Ontario sees that. As an explorer, that's all you can ask.
That's all you can ask. Well, just a final question for you, Minister Crawford here. Darren said it's all about putting the drills in the ground. You've mentioned about certain things that the government are doing with regards to helping juniors.
Mm-hmm.
What are the sort of specific measures? Is it about dropping hurdles? Are there grants available to really encourage and make things a bit easier? Of course, First Nations is a huge consideration as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So you are correct. We have something called the Junior Exploration Program. So the government of Ontario is actually supporting some smaller companies getting those drills in the ground. I think that's important. These smaller companies, let's face it, in the last little while have had a bit more of an issue raising capital. So not that we're going to be the bank for them. However, you know, where we can and we receive some good potential, we will support them. Also, again, creating the right environment and making sure they're able to do it quicker and safer. And thirdly, you did touch on the First Nations as well. So we've been very engaged. And the good news is the overwhelming majority of First Nations are supportive, and they're engaged in what's happening in their communities and their traditional territories. And quite often they want to take part in an equity position. They're receiving resource royalties from the government flowing through from the companies. And really, it's a ticket to prosperity for Northern and Indigenous communities. We have 90% of our population of Ontario is in the south, 10% in the north, and that's 90% of our land. And we want to ensure we have prosperity throughout Ontario. So I think mining actually can play a major role in that.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time. I know you're a very busy man, but thank you very much, Minister Crawford, for your time, and of course Darren Hazelwood of Panther Metals. I'll let you both go, and I'll come and speak to you in a moment. I've just got to say goodbye to our viewers. So you can,
Thanks, Mark.
thank you very much, both of you.
Thanks.
I'll come and talk to you in a moment.
Yeah.
Well, there we are. That was Minister Crawford and Darren Hazelwood. Their nice little chat. Really good to hear Minister Crawford's bullish view on commodities going forward. That really will encourage a lot of investors in this space, and of course, very sympathetic as well to junior explorers. So hopefully I can see Darren and Minister Crawford talking now. So yeah, hopefully it opens a few doors for companies like Panther Metals exploring in Ontario there. Hopefully, as I say, we can get an interview with Minister Pirrie and Ryan, but like I say, he's a very busy man. We are going to take a lunch break now, well-deserved lunch break for about an hour and a half. I think we're back on at 2 o'clock. So stay tuned on Stopbox. I hope everyone's enjoying it. Give us any feedback if you're enjoying it, or if you're not enjoying it, let us know. But for now, for the next sort of 90 minutes or so, thank you very much.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stopboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.